Maker Laura Wright Parker is suing her former neighbor, 29-year-old student Deborah Van Tyne, for the return of her Pomeranian named Tiffany.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 316 on the calendar in the matter of Wright Parker versus Van Tyne. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Parker, the defendant had been a friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, on the 17th of August, you asked her to watch your dog, small dog, Pomeranian.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the 20th of August, you contacted her to get the dog back, and she refused to give the dog back to you. And she has not given the dog back to you to this day. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
The defendant has a counterclaim. He says because the dog has been with her now for 81 days, she wants to be paid for boarding the dog. And the second defense that she has is that she actually purchased the dog for $1 from your estranged husband. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Shh. Okay. Tell me the circumstances of the defendant coming into possession of the dog on the 17th of August.
I was having some problems at home with my stepchildren that I've raised for 10 years. My husband was an over-the-road truck driver. And I got very upset, and I called him, and I asked him to please come home and help me straighten it out. So he said that he would do that. He was going to deliver the load he had, and he would come home. About an hour later, my stepdaughter informed me that she was leaving. She wasn't going to take this anymore, whatever this was. And she was leaving and had someplace she and her brother could go. So I was very upset, and I just said, well, you know, Danielle, I can't take this anymore. You've been threatening to leave for a year. I said, the door's not locked. If you need to leave, then leave. And so they did. So I spoke with my husband several times during the week. Apparently, he had spoken with Danielle. She had called him on his cell phone and told him...
That's his daughter?
Yes. That she would tell him where they were if he promised not to tell me. So he made that promise to her. And when he informed me of this, I said, you shouldn't have done that because I'm here and I'm in charge of them and I should know where they are. Well, a week went by. He called me on the 16th at noon and said he'd be in on the 17th. We'd get the kids home, we'd get it all straightened out, and everything would be fine. When the 17th came, he was going to call me to come pick him up because he can't park his truck where we live. So he didn't call, and he didn't come home. And by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I got really concerned. I thought he was in an accident. So I called his dispatcher, who told me he was in the area, but he couldn't tell me where he was because my husband had told him not to. So that night, I got very, very depressed. And I had talked to Miss Van Tyne through the week, and she knew what I was going through, and the children were at her house, but she never said anything to me about it. As a matter of fact...
She a friend of the family?
She was my friend. I had lived across the street from her for almost a year.
Okay, so now we're at the 17th of August, and you don't know that the children are at her house?
No, because she had told my daughter the next time that she was fed up with me to just leave the house and call.
That is not true. Whatever. Let's get to the dog.
All right. She had watched my dog twice in the past for me, and she always told me, you know, she's no problem. Anytime you need me to watch her, just bring her down. It's no problem. I never had a problem getting her back or anything.
Okay, so what happened on the 17th?
I called her at 7 o'clock at night, and she said to me, I have a date with this, I don't know, some doctor that had called her and wanted her to go out on a date, so I won't be here. She says, just drop her over the fence, she'll know enough where to go.
That's not true. I'll get to you in a minute.
And I said, okay, fine. So about 8:30 I got there, I went in the backyard, and I put Tiffany through the doggy door. So I left and went home. The next morning, I was a little bit better emotionally, and I really missed Tiffany, so I called her house and left a message to call me. Well, she never called Saturday. I did the same thing on Sunday, and she didn't return my call. And Monday, I went to the cell phone company, found out my husband had been talking to Debbie through the week on the cell phone, so I knew then where him and the kids were. So I went to Debbie's to get the dog, and nobody was home.
Okay. Now, how old is this dog?
She just turned 7.
When did you get her?
I got her in October of '94.
How long have you been married?
3 years.
So you had the dog previous to your being
4
married?
4 years before I got married.
Okay. I'll hear you now.
Okay. First of all, the children called me very distressed. I had never met her estranged husband, Dean, up until the children had been with me for a week. And the only reason that I did befriend this woman was because of the things that I had seen
That's
going
not
on
true.
with the children.
Okay.
And so,
nevertheless, let
I-
me get by that for a moment. The children came to your house, and you made an arrangement with her husband to keep the children at your house. I'm putting two and two together until he got back.
Right.
He came back sometime around the 17th of August. Did he stay in your home with the children?
He rented a room from me until they got an apartment.
About when did they move out?
I guess they stayed about 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
Now, I did tell her that I could not watch this dog. She
No, you
called
did
me
not.
and I told her,
Don't interrupt her.
when she called me, I did not want to watch the dog because of what was going on domestically with these children.
Okay.
I didn't want her having any contact with them or to risk their safety again. So I did tell her I couldn't watch the dog. She then, and my neighbor did witness her throw the dog over my fence. She didn't put
It
her
was
in the
dark
doggy
out.
door. This is in August at 7. It isn't dark at 7 in August.
Oh,
But
so
my
really
neighbor
dark.
did see her throw this dog over my fence. And so when I get home, after telling Laura that I could not watch her, the dog is there.
But then we come to the 20th, when she did, in fact, come back for the dog.
Right.
So
and
why,
I have
my
the-
question to you, Miss Van Tyne, is why did you not give her back her dog on the 20th?
Well, because she
of
called the
Jones.
Charleston. She called the Charleston Police Department, and I do have the police report from that here. And he does state that she was irate and also threatened to drive her van through my house.
That's not what I said.
And yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you, why
And
didn't
I mean,
you
the
give...
reason that because I was not there when she came for the dog, I
With
told
my
her I'm not
husband.
going to be home.
Miss Parker, if you interrupt again, you're going home empty-handed. Do you understand?
Anyway,
You gotta give me a good answer. She wants her dog back. You know she wants her dog back. Why didn't you make arrangements to get her dog back through the police department the next day?
because of the harassment that was going on with her, and then I was advised by the police officer not to have contact with this woman since she had...
So you give the dog to the police officer, and the police officer brings the dog to her house. End of conflict.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Wright Parker says former neighbor Deborah Van Tyne refuses to return her Pomeranian named Tiffany. Deborah says Laura abandoned the animal in her backyard.
Miss Van Tyne, you had no right to keep her dog after the 20th. So there goes your counterclaim. You want her to pay so much a day for the 81 days that you've boarded this dog. That's ridiculous because she wanted her dog back and you should have given her dog back. Now, you say that you bought the dog from her husband for $1?
He purchased the animal. He's the one who purchased the animal in the beginning in '94.
If her husband purchased this dog for her in 1994, this was her dog and he has no right to sell it for $1 or $10 or $20. So pick a time that's convenient for you to bring the dog to the police station so that the dog can be transported to the plaintiff's home.
I guess this weekend.
Perfect. As far as your counterclaim is concerned, reimbursement for dog care, forget that. Related expenses, forget that. Pain and suffering.
Yeah, her, threatening my life. Her brother's calling me from New York, threatening to whack me.
Why don't you just give her a dog back?
This was not over the dog. This was over the children.
Listen, you never get in the middle of two married people. That's not a very smart
Well,
thing
the
to
children
do.
being abused and no one else being there.
Listen.
He asked me to take the children into a safe place, and I
Fine.
did.
But then you kept both he and the children in your home for a month. It's not a very good idea. You should have given her dog back on the 20th. That was a very foolish thing to do. Judgment for the plaintiff. The dog will be returned. I will prepare an order.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have one question.
Yes.
I also put down that I'd like some kind of compensation for emotional distress and pain and suffering.
That you don't get.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
All I care about is I came out here to get my dog, and that's what I got.
She was beating the children and the animals.
I don't make best friends.
I wouldn't hesitate to step in and help again. Not in the least.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gilmore versus Jones. Step forward, please.
44-year-old air traffic controller Kevin Gilmore is suing Melinda and James Jones for a bicycle accident caused by their dog. The Joneses say Kevin is also at fault.
Mr. Gilmore, your complaint is that the defendant's dog caused your bicycle to crash with you on it,
That's correct.
and you want to be compensated for your medical bills, your pain and suffering, and basically for the injuries that you sustained.
That's correct.
When did this happen?
On June 14th,
Where were you?
I was riding my bicycle in front of the defendant's home. It's a rural two-lane highway, and as I approached the defendant's house, their dog came up out of the ditch and ran in front of me. I had no chance.
Where was there a ditch?
I have photos of that here.
Can I see it, please?
The arrows point the direction I was coming from and going. And a dog could easily have been in there and not be seen.
So you assume that the dog came out of this area
That's
here?
correct. Right
which is
in
where
there.
the ditch was?
That's
Okay.
correct. So as I approached that area where the X is, the dog ran out in front of me. I had no chance to avoid it. I had traffic on my left, and I grabbed onto the handlebars as tight as I could, knew I was going to hit the dog. I hit the dog, flew through the air, landed on my right side, and hit my head pretty hard, cracked my helmet, was unconscious for, I think, several minutes. I'm not sure. When I came to, there were several people standing around me. An ambulance had been summoned, and the police were on the way. I was taken to the ER of the local hospital, and I was treated for my wounds, given some medication for pain.
What kind of dog was this? Do you know?
It looks like a black lab mix, maybe a 60 or 70 pound dog, 18 months old, full of energy. No problem trying to keep up with the biker, I guess, but damage to my bike was pretty significant. It's an expensive bike. I think I paid over $5,000 worth. I have a receipt for that initially.
Did you have any opportunity to speak to the defendants?
Yes, I did.
When?
Actually, that night, my wife spoke with Mrs. Jones.
On the telephone or in person?
On the telephone.
Wife? Yeah. Step up. Is it Miss Gilmore?
Mrs. Gilmore, yes. I spoke to Mrs. Jones just to get the information about their address, and I just wanted some basic information. I asked how the dog was, and I told her that my husband had been hurt pretty badly, and that we were probably going to be compiling the costs of out-of-pocket expenses. So
What did she say?
she didn't say much of anything. She was pretty quiet at the other end.
How did she say the dog was?
She said the paw was hurt on the dog, but the next day my husband had talked to him, and I think it was hurt pretty badly.
Do you have any photographs of your injuries?
Yes, I do, ma'am. And it's my contention, ma'am, that the owners knew that this dog was a hazard to bicyclists. On August 20th, after I'd compiled all of my expenses, I had been playing telephone tag with the Jones, trying to get a hold of them so I could drop off my receipts. And on this day I called and I got a hold of one of their children. They said, no, it's okay, you can bring the receipts by. So I did. I brought the receipts by and I asked if I could see the dog. I wanted to see how it was doing. And I was petting the dog, and the son offered information to me that I thought was very interesting. He said that the dog has been maced, it's been hit at with bicycle pumps. To quote him, he said there's one older biker who says he's going to kill that dog if it puts one more paw on the pavement.
May I see the police report?
Sure. He states that the dog was tied up. When it saw me, it worked its way loose from the collar, and it ran down the driveway and chased me down. Well, their daughter stated to me that when they saw me coming down the road, they were all saying, "Where's Molly? Where's Molly?" They couldn't find Molly until it was too late. And the boy said, "You hit Molly and you look like you were Superman flying through the air."
Mr. Jones, tell me where you were on the date of this incident.
I was standing in the driveway, and the dog was on a leash at that particular time. And she apparently had seen him coming. She pulled her head out from the collar, and she had cut him off. Mr. Gilmore was riding fairly close to the edge of the ditch because she didn't even clear the grass hardly when he hit her. And when I got there, he was not unconscious. The first thing he said to me was, "What happened?" And I had stated to him at that point that he had hit my dog. I guess my deal is that Mr. Gilmore created this incident. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and my dog happened to pull her head out and run him down.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore was riding his bike 35 to 40 miles away from his own residence on a major highway. There's 2,500 miles of bike trails in the state of Minnesota. I know that it's not against the law to ride your bike on a highway, but they're dangerous.
They're
And
not
Highway
dangerous
3
unless there's a dog off a leash.
She wasn't off the leash, ma'am.
Yes, she was. She was off the leash. Now, if I believe the baloney story that she was on the leash and she managed to wiggle her neck out of the collar, which I don't believe for a second, but let's say I woke up this morning in a good mood and I believe that story, you're still responsible because the collar should have been tight enough so that the dog couldn't whittle out of the collar, especially since you knew that the dog had previously enjoyed chasing cyclists. Okay. Mr. Gilmore, am I correct that what you really wanted from them was your expenses, the
That's all I
out-of-pocket
asked for
expenses?
initially. I asked for them to pay my out-of-pocket expenses. And then they got difficult about that. They said
It
that...
started
Your
out at
Honor.
$500, went to
Your Honor.
$1,500, and
The
then
day
you
that-
jacked it up $1,500 more after the fact.
The day that this had happened, as Mrs. Gilmore had stated, yes, I did talk to her that evening. And when she asked how my dog was, I told her that her shoulder had been ripped open, but she's going to be fine. She had told me $500 will take care of everything. Mr. Gilmore had called me the following day and said, my wife had no right stating to you that $500 would take care of it. I need to get my bills together to come up with a total. And
Okay,
I said
that's fair.
that's fine. He did that.
He did that. So what were the
Yes,
bills that he
when-
presented you with?
He presented a bill of $1,192. So
Okay.
now it has gone from $500.
No, it didn't go from 500. No,
to the
Miss
$1,200.
Jones, it didn't go from 500. If his wife said that to you, $500 should cover it. And then he called you immediately and he said to you, my wife should not have said that to you because I don't have all my bills together yet.
Exactly.
So he got the bills together and he brought them over to you. So why didn't you pay him?
We felt that
No,
he put the-
I didn't ask you. I'm asking her.
Because I was not able to get back to him.
When did you finally get back to him?
He had called.
When did you get back to
I
him?
did not, ma'am.
Well, then that's the answer. You never bothered to call him back. Okay.
Your Honor. How can we go from almost $1,200 to over $3,000?
Because he's also suing you for pain and suffering. Those were his out-of-pocket expenses. He wasn't asking you for $3,000 then. It was only when you blew him off and didn't call him that he sued you. And he said, I'm going to get some pain and suffering out of this, too.
But when
Why don't you
I
have
said to Kevin that I was surprised that he wasn't willing to accept any of the responsibility of this incident, that's when it got jacked up.
It is not his responsibility. It is
It
your
was an
responsibility.
accident that was just something that, a freak thing that had happened.
No. Listen to me, sir. Accidents happen. That's why we have insurance. If you drive a car, which I'm sure you do if you live in a rural area, you have insurance on your car because very few people, unless they are demented, go out into the street with a vehicle intending to cause injury or damage. That's why we call them accidents. This was, in fact, an accident, but it was an accident caused by your dog because your dog was off the leash.
So if I had been in my vehicle backing out of my driveway and he had hit me, he is not any at all responsible?
You don't seem to get the drill here in a court. In a court, I ask the questions and you answer the questions.
I understand
So
that.
far, you've answered the questions and you've gotten most of them wrong. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Mother, 52-year-old sales representative Jane Cannon, for an unpaid loan to buy a computer. Layla says her mother has received inheritance money and still refuses to pay.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Miss. Yeah, this is case number 349 on the calendar in the matter of Cameron versus Cameron. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Got to get comfortable here. Thank you. Miss Cameron, the defendant is your mother. You purchased a computer for her on your credit card. It's your claim that she paid you back for a while and then stopped, right?
Yes, I came on vacation last year, October 2000, and she took me into Best Buy, and she was looking at computers, and then she went to go to purchase the computer, and then she asked to borrow the money off me. We hadn't talked in 5 years because she had done that previously, not paid me on things before. So I thought I'd give her another chance and renew our relationship, and
So
once
you put
again,
it on your credit card.
Correct. I only got approved for $700 at Best Buy. I put $700 on the Best Buy account, and I put the remaining $954 on my Chase MasterCard.
And then she paid you for a while. How many payments did she make?
Well, I have copies of 3 checks, but she's paid me $500 total so far, and this has been a year. And she told me when she got her inheritance money that she would pay me back for the computer.
What inheritance money?
Her uncle died and left her a bunch of money, and she promised me when she got that settlement that she would definitely pay me back. Come to find out, I talked to a family attorney. She did get a settlement, the inheritance, in January, and she gets paid every year in
January
of this year, 2001.
What was the settlement?
My uncle who raised me, he left me his life insurance policy.
How much?
I get $10,000 a year.
And she chose not to pay me when she got that money in January, and she chose to retile her house. and I've only been out of college for a year. And it's still on my credit card. I've been out of a job for the last 6 months. I've asked her continuously for the last 6 months, can you please pay me that money?
How much does she owe you with the interest?
Okay, it'll start out with the Best Buy. It was $700 open account. It's 21.4% interest, so that comes up to date $880. Then the remainder of the computer was $954.38, comes up to $1,128.86.
Okay, stop. So, why'd you stop paying her?
Well, I stopped paying her because my daughter owes me money from years back of college expenses and everything, and I was ill at the time.
What do you mean she owes you money?
Well,
I got proof.
Shh. Go ahead.
The whole time that when she went off to college and everything, I paid her rent for her, I bought her groceries, I paid her credit card payments at the time. She was taking her friends out to Hooters and me paying the credit card bills. She would come home.
Please, listen to me. Just remember where you are. Go ahead.
And I bought her bedroom suit. I have the canceled check here. I loaned her furniture. And I said, Layla, I have furniture that I want this back. When she got ready to move, she didn't so much as pick up a phone and say, Mom, come and get your furniture. I want to return it. I offered to pay her off in February. She quit her job. She didn't lose her job.
Well, how come I'm getting unemployment?
I don't want you to speak to her.
She quit. She wanted to quit her job. She was very unhappy on her job. I sent her $200 a month. I got sick. I called her and told her that, Layla, I'm out of work. I'm sick right now. I will get caught up. If I have to wait till January till I get my money, I did go and buy a house in February. And she came down and visited me and everything, and she said, no, I'd just rather you pay me the payments. But unfortunately, things happened, and I got behind. She refused to speak to me. Her roommate would answer the phone.
What's your defense to this $2,008? I'm still waiting for defense.
Okay, Your Honor, I do have all the canceled checks. I've paid her $854. I gave her $200.
So you say it was more than $500. You say it was
I paid her $854. And I sent her a breakdown in June of everything I'd paid her, and I put on there, sweetheart, you know, I'll get caught up on this. This is my daughter, Your Honor. I love her. And I cannot believe I'm here today. I mean, you know, I cried for 2 days.
I can't believe you're sitting here saying that you love me, and you're sitting here lying.
Miss Cameron, don't speak to her.
She's lying.
I cried for 2 days when she did this.
She says she made $800 worth of payments.
And the last one was $54.38.
And one of those checks that she has, I loaned her $100 because she had no money. And so $100 of that money needs to be subtracted off because I gave it to her as a loan.
It's on there.
Because she had no money, and she came up to Atlanta for a seminar with her company, and I loaned her $100.
I deducted the $100 off of there.
I'm not denying that she's made some payments to me. I'm not denying that. It's just the point that she got her settlement back in January. She's had plenty of time to pay me back. She got, just like she said, $10,000. She's been working for GE. There's no reason why she couldn't have paid me back. And I got my student loans right here. I'll show you where I owe $20,000.
Just a second.
Just
a second. I'm not interested in her story that she paid for your things in college, and she paid for your rent, and she paid for your books, and she paid for everything else. That's what a parent's supposed to do.
But she never did, though.
Just a second. If she did that, that's what she's supposed to do. And if she gave you furniture, that's what she's supposed to do. And if she bought you a couch and a bed when you were there, that's what she was supposed to do.
It wasn't even her furniture.
Shh, hey, that's what she's supposed to do. I'm just trying to figure out how much she still owes you on this computer, because the amount that you gave me for $500 was wrong.
I actually, there's a correction to the amount she owes me. In order to get the discount on the computer that she got, they took money off if she signed up for 3 years of MSN. And I've been paying for it. I got the credit card here where I've been continuously paying for an MSN service, $21.95.
What's MSN?
Online internet service.
And that was a family plan. She could have access
and if
to
I
use
cancel it,
just a second. It may have been a family plan, madam.
But it was for her benefit, not use it.
But she didn't have it before.
No, she did not.
So
and I don't have a computer.
Shh.
Sorry.
So she got the computer at a discount. It's like buying a cell phone. We'll sell you this $150 cell phone if you sign up
Sign
with
up
us
for
for 3
3
years.
years.
So it's the same kind
And
of
I
thing.
have changed that, Your Honor, and that comes out of my bank account now.
Just
I
a
can
minute,
prove
but
it
she's
right
still
now.
paying for it.
No, she's not.
Right here, I got my credit card
She's
statement.
not
shows you
anymore.
to date.
Your Honor, when this
she
was-
must have just did this.
I did. I did it 2 months ago.
No,
I
because I
changed.
got proof right here. I can show
You're
you.
in. You don't. Dun.
Right here.
You got November payment on
Right
there?
here, October of 2001. It's still on there. So right there, she's lying.
Go ahead.
I changed it, Your Honor, when she served the
She's-
notice on me, which was October, when they came to
Why
the...
didn't you
She
change
just
it
said
before?
2 months ago. Now she's changing her story.
Hey.
Because I did not have a credit card. They would not... I asked them if they could automatic debit my bank account at the time, and they said no.
And if I cancel the service, they charge me $500 to my credit
All
card.
right. Your mother owes you $1,918 because I've given her credit because you said she only paid $500. She paid more than $500 towards the computer. But she owes you for the rest of these things. Your excuse is a pretty lame excuse. If you run out of money, the first thing that you do is you pay your child money. You don't buy a new house.
I didn't, Your Honor.
Yeah, you just told me. You told
I
me
did.
you bought it.
When I started having
You told
problems
me that you bought a house.
in February, and I offered to pay her off at that time.
Just a minute. You shouldn't have offered to pay her off. You give her a check. You say, here's what I owe you.
Do you think I don't-
I'm speaking.
Sorry.
You don't offer to pay her off. You say, here's the check.
Well,
I'm
that's
giving
what
you
I
the
should've
money
done.
that I
You're
owe
right.
you. But not conjure up in your mind, because I read your answer, and your answer says, which I found interesting. You say, she actually owes you money for all the things you did to her when she was a child.
No,
That's
she
what-
was not a child. She was over 18 years old.
That's a child. 19 is a child. 20 is a child. They're in college.
That's right, and I
21
did
is
it from my heart because I loved her.
You,
And,
no,
and the
no, no.
one
You do
time,
it because that's what parents do for their children.
Exactly, but
Right.
the one time her mother needed her in her whole life, and I got ill, she was not there for me. I'm her mother, and I needed help at the time.
You needed help because you had overextended yourself and you spent your money someplace else.
I had to buy a house, Your Honor. I was living with a friend at the
You
time.
don't have to buy a house. You can rent an apartment. You don't have to buy a house.
Well, my house payment is lower than an apartment.
That's wonderful. But if you were going to pay her off, I'm going to say it again, then if you had the money, then you write her a check and you say, here, put this in your account. We're now free and clear. I don't owe you anymore. I've paid you my debt. But not to pay your child.
Your Honor-
That you do. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Didn't do a thing for me.
The one time I needed her, she was not there for me.
I was there for her. I helped her out, but she had no money.
No, family doesn't do this to each other.
And then for her to sit here and say I was never there for her and never did anything for her, I mean, that hurts.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cathers versus McKee. Step forward, please.
55-year-old Mary Jo Cathers is suing her ex-boyfriend, 48-year-old electrician Marshall McKee Jr., for a series of unpaid loans. Marshall says Mary Jo never used the word loan until they broke up.
Ms. Cathers, according to your papers, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours who you've known for a very long time, many years. You claim a series of loans to him recently after you got a settlement from an accident that you were in.
Correct.
Mr. McKee says he accepted money from you, but there were no loans. There was no arrangement to pay you back. These were all gifts given out of friendship and the relationship that you enjoyed. Is that right, sir?
Your Honor, there's nothing in writing,
Doesn't have to be in writing.
and there was no verbal agreements for any payback whatsoever.
Fine, then that's what we're going to find out. When was the first loan and what was it for?
December?
December of 2000.
Yes. Actually, the first loans were for rents, and I've canceled checks.
How much for rent? And tell me under what circumstances you paid his rent.
Him out of work here and there, and I felt sorry for him and loaned him the money. And
Tell
never-
me how that happened. Tell me what he said to you, what you said to
'Cause he
him, where did
borrowed
it
the
take
money
place?
to pay his rent. He needed it. He'd pay me back when he got his job.
And you said to him,
I said I didn't have that much, but I could help him, somewhat.
okay.
But I needed the money back because I am on a very limited income.
So what did he say to you?
That I would get my money, I would get my money.
And how much was the first check that you gave to him?
Actually, I had one where I paid the landlady myself,
And how much was that?
and that was for $60.
That's not rent. How much was your rent, sir?
My rent on my RV is $60 a week, and she volunteered to go ahead and pay
Don't tell
that
me what
to
she
her.
volunteered. I asked you a simple question. Your simple question was, how much is your rent? $60.
$60 a week.
And in total, how much did you give him towards the rent?
Over a period of a year, $887.
So you were out of work for a long time?
No, ma'am, not that long.
Well, let me see the cancel checks.
Your Honor, due to my business, being an electrician, sometimes when the job ends, I'm temporarily laid off, and she went ahead and volunteered to help.
I have $558 in canceled checks.
Those yellow slips, that was used for rent.
What do you mean that was used for rent?
Those yellow slips, Your Honor, were for pawn shop loans that I had to have to pay my rent. She went ahead and volunteered to just go ahead and pay everything, and naturally the pawn shop's not going to refuse cash, and I kept telling the manager, no, I don't want her to do this.
So you pawned stuff to pay your rent?
Yes, ma'am.
And then she got your stuff out of pawn?
That's correct.
So that's rent. What other money did you give him? Because your lawsuit wants
These are
$4,068. Tell me.
These are attorney's fees.
All right, tell me about the attorney's fees. When?
July 6th, he wanted to talk to his attorney to see if this attorney could help him.
Was it a
And-
criminal matter?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so he said it was a $75 consultant's fees, giving that. And then he come back out saying that the man could really, really help him, and he was crying, and he knew I had just gotten the money from my accident, so I wrote a check out for $2,500 in the assumption that he said, I said, I can't afford this, I have to get a refrigerator and things, that he would give me my money back.
There's also a check here in April of 2000.
For rent when we were starting to rekindle things again.
But he never paid you back the money, according to you, that you gave him in April of 2000, right?
No.
So why did you give him thousands of dollars to pay a lawyer and thinking that he was going to pay you back?
He promised to pay it back. I thought we had a relationship going.
He
And
didn't
then
pay you anything back for the April 2000
Correct.
loan that you gave him. He didn't pay you anything back for the December 2000 loan that you gave him.
Your Honor, can
What?
I say something? In 2000, December of 2000, we started cohabitating again, living together again, and
Where?
cohabitating at her residence in Brevard County.
Excuse me, he has never lived with me.
That's incorrect. That's completely incorrect.
Well, if he was living with you, what were you paying his rent for someplace else?
Thank you.
I still had my RV over in Orange City. I still had to continue lot storage and lot rent on
What were
it.
you arrested for, sir, that you needed a lawyer for?
I was arrested for being someplace with some friends that I shouldn't have been.
That's not a crime. I know the penal law pretty well.
Right.
That's not a crime. What were you arrested for?
We were traveling through a neighborhood and got stopped, and we were charged with trying to purchase illicit items.
Okay, so what were you arrested for, sir? There is a name for what you were arrested for.
Solicitation.
Is this the first time you were arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened with the case?
It's pending.
Still pending with the same lawyer?
No, ma'am. That attorney withdrew himself from the case
Why?
because he wanted more money. I couldn't come up with it.
And how many court appearances did he make for you?
One.
Well, then you got some money back from him.
No, I had signed a contract and it was a non-refundable fee.
Let me see the contract.
I don't have that.
I don't believe you.
I can give you the attorney's name.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that a lawyer appears with you in court once, then withdraws from the case and says, you're out, your retainer.
He did.
Yeah.
You can even ask Mary Jo.
If you don't make an attempt to pay him, I guess the guy's not going to represent you, right?
Well, especially when it's not your money that you gave him as a down payment.
I know.
Well, she just whipped out her checkbook.
Just
and
listen to
wrote
me.
the checks.
Don't tell me she just whipped out her checkbook. If you're speaking to the lawyer, you're not an idiot, are you?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Good. If you're not an idiot, then you say, how much is this going to cost me? It's my first arrest. It's an arrest for solicitation. How much is your entire fee going to be? Isn't that what you asked him?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
$4,000.
He appeared with you once.
He didn't appear with me, but he appeared in court.
He appeared in court once.
Yes, ma'am.
Not even with you. $2,500. So all you had to do was come up with another $1,500. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew you had to come up with another $1,500. Even if I believe your story that he didn't give you back any money, which I'm not sure I believe. So why would you sign a retainer agreement with him for $4,000 if you didn't have the other 15?
Well, at the time, I was changing electrical jobs again.
This was in July?
Last of July, yes, ma'am.
All right. So can you explain to me why, sir, you still needed money to help pay your rent?
Well, the rent meter keeps running.
Why didn't you pay your own rent?
I was during the time.
During what time? Not in July, you weren't.
Oh, I was collecting unemployment at that time.
You just told me you were working.
Well, I was collecting unemployment prior.
And working.
No, prior to gaining employment again.
Ms. Cathers,
Yes, ma'am.
part of your money is stupidity.
Yes, ma'am.
All right? You're not going to get any money for the rent you paid to him because that comes under the category of dumb. Because
Dumb
you kept-
love.
No, just dumb. Dumb. You don't have any money, I'll give you money for rent. But the part that I'm more interested in is this big chunk of money that you gave to him, $2,500. $2,500, I believe he took advantage of you. And I also believe that he got some money back from the lawyer. Because I don't know of any reputable attorney who got more than 50% of his full retainer and then would withdraw from the case after making one court appearance without even the defendant being present.
You can call him, Your Honor.
I don't want to call him. And if you didn't get any money back from him, you should have sued him. And you don't even have your retainer agreement to show me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Filmmaker Jennifer Hopkins is suing her mother, 46-year-old truck driver Regina Googler, for filing a false report with Child Services. Jennifer says, as a result, her children were taken away.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 390 on the calendar in the matter of Hopkins versus Googler. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. Be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Hopkins, the defendant is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that owing to the fact that your mother made a false report to Child Protective Services, your children were removed from your custody for a brief period of time. In addition to that, you lost your job and suffered other financial ramifications as a result of that false complaint. Your mother's response indicates that she told the truth. She doesn't deny that she made a report to Child Protective Services. Is that right?
That's right.
Your grandson was visiting with you.
Yes, he was.
How old is he?
9.
Your daughter has how many children?
2.
You have a 9-year-old and then a 5-year-old?
5-year-old.
5-year-old is a girl or a boy?
Boy, 2 boys.
And other than the 2 children, who do you live with?
My fiance.
Is he the father of either of these children?
No, he is not.
Do the 9-year-old and the 5-year-old have the same father?
No, they do not.
When was your grandson visiting with you?
I picked him up on October the 2nd. I took him home on October the 5th. And then I went back and picked him up again on October the 7th. And I kept him until October the 10th when the Sheriff's Department called me, took my statement, and asked me to bring my grandson to the police station.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me, Ms. Kugler, what prompted you to call Child Protective Services?
My grandson, on October the 3rd, told his grandfather
Step up.
that Mommy had threw a phone and hit him.
You didn't hear this conversation?
No, he told his granddad.
Okay. Mr. Kugler, where were you when you had this conversation with your grandson?
In the front room of our house.
What prompted the conversation?
He came in, he was on the computer doing a school game, computer game, or race cars or something. And he came in to me and he says, "Daddy, my head hurts." And I says, "What happened?" And he says, "Mother hit me with the phone." I looked at it and there was a bruise behind his ear and a little redness.
Just redness?
A little lump. Not
This was the day after he arrived?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Gina was at therapy treatment. When she came home, I said, "Timmy came up to me a little while ago complaining of a sore behind his ear. It hurt." So we called Timmy back in, and he repeated it to us.
Did he say when that happened?
It was just the day before when he was over at the house with his mother.
No, Judge Judy. Timothy didn't give me the exact date, but he had told me that his mom, when his dad brought him home from a visit, had threw his Pokemon cards in the garbage.
Okay. And then what did he tell you?
He says, "My mommy threw the phone, and it hit me right here, Grandma." I says, "What happened, Timothy?" He says, "Mommy was mad because I was whining over my bicycle, my finger bicycle."
A finger?
Finger bike. It's a little bike that you play with, you can use for your fingers. And it broke, and Mommy was mad. And I went, "Okay."
That's not true.
Go ahead.
So I told him, I says, "Timmy," I says, "I know that you're 9 years old, and I know that you're a big boy, but Grandma needs to see you." I says, "I need to see if there's any marks on you." There was black and blue marks on Timothy's bottom.
Where on his bottom?
They were across his bottom.
Across his buttocks?
Yes.
What did they look like?
They were black and blue marks.
Were they linear?
He had a bruise on his leg that looked like it was an electric cord that he got hit with.
Did you ask him about it?
I asked him, and he says, "Mommy hits me with the belt wherever she wants to hit me.
Oh my God.
So what did you do, Miss Googler?
I cried because I know how nasty my daughter's temper can be.
What did you do?
They called the police.
Shh, Miss Hopkins.
No, I did not, Your
What did
Honor.
you do?
I called CPS the following morning.
Okay, and you made a report.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Then you say on the 5th of October you brought your grandson back to his mother's.
Yes, I did.
Did you have any conversation with her when you brought
No,
the
I did
child
not.
back?
I did not ask her about it.
Okay. Was this the first time that you had noticed any bruises on your grandson?
No, it's not.
When previously to that had you noticed any bruises on your
Back in
grandson?
1998, when he was 5 years old, he had a bruise on his leg that you could tell it was a cord that had smacked his leg.
Did you have a conversation with your daughter at that time?
I told my daughter at that time that she needed anger management because she was very, very angry when it came to her kids. That same day that we got into that conversation, Your Honor, she told my grandson he didn't mind his grandpa one day. She told him if he didn't listen to his grandpa, that she was going to pound the living out of him.
Okay. When you had this conversation with your daughter when your grandson was 5, did your daughter acknowledge at that time that she had in fact hit him?
No, she didn't.
When did either Child Protective Services, Ms. Hopkins, or the police come to your home?
October 10th. There was 2 reports made, one on October 3rd, the second one on October 10th. They said that I was accused by my stepfather, Mr. Googler, that I beat my son in the head with a phone. And I said, that didn't happen. What did happen was about 3 weeks before, Mr. Timmy got mad at me because I threw his Pokemon cards away.
Mr. Timmy, is that
That's what I would refer to my baby. Well, I have Mr. Timmy, Mr. Andy. Mr. Timmy got mad at me because I threw his Pokemon cards away because I don't approve of them. And he said, I want to call Grandma. I said, you're not calling Grandma. You're going to go to your room. He said, you're being just like Grandma says, Mom. And I threw the phone at the wall, and the phone did break.
When you threw the phone at the wall, did any part of the phone hit him accidentally?
I don't know. It could have. The battery in the back of the phone could have. But there was no marks on that child.
Okay, just a second. So that it is possible that part of the phone, when you threw it in anger, did in fact hit your son?
It could have. It could have.
Could have.
It could have.
Now, as far as the mark that your mother says she saw on the child's buttocks.
She bumped her head.
Shh, pay attention to me. Have you ever used a belt or something else to reprimand your children?
I have spanked my son on his behind with my hand. I have never beat him with a belt, an extension cord, a vacuum cord, or anything
or any
for
other
that matter.
kind of cord. When was the last time prior to October the 3rd that you spanked your son with your hand?
He doesn't get spanked all that often.
No, I'm just asking you because your mother says she saw.
My mother's a liar.
Just answer my questions, would you please?
Months.
Months.
It doesn't do anything to spank Timmy.
Fine. Now, the police arrived with Child Protective Services, and they arrived at your house on the 10th.
It was just the police at first. They
And
talked to me and my fiance. As soon as they left, I called my mother, and I said, you need to bring Timmy home because we need to have a family discussion. No, I don't want to bring him home. What's going on? I said, just bring him home. I'm going to lose my grandson. And she started crying. And I said, okay, I will meet you at your house, and we'll sit at your table, and we'll have a family discussion. We did so. Myself, my fiance, and my 5-year-old went to my mother's house. We sat at her kitchen table, and I said, Timmy, why did you say that? And he looked at my mother. And I said, Timmy, baby, you need to tell me because I'm in a lot of trouble now. Because I wanted to stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house for the rest of my break. I didn't want to go back to stay with my dad on the weekend. And I said, you shouldn't have lied. And my mother looked at Timmy and said, Timmy, you shouldn't have told Papa that if it wasn't true. You should not have lied to Papa. And he said, I'm sorry, Grandma.
Okay.
We left, and about 6 p.m., sheriff showed up at my house and took my 5-year-old and said that I was under investigation for child abuse and child neglect. And they took my kids.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Hopkins says her mother, Regina Googler, filed a false report with Child Services. Regina says Jennifer threw a telephone at her 9-year-old son.
Okay. At the first court hearing, you were present?
Correct.
You had an attorney?
Correct.
And the Child Protective Services attorney was present?
Correct.
And a social worker?
Correct.
When was that hearing?
The first one was November 6th.
And at that point, both the children were out of your custody?
Yes. They were in
Who were
foster
they
care.
with? Both children were in foster care with
Yes.
strangers?
Uh-huh.
Were both of your children returned to you after the hearing of
Nope.
November 6th?
No.
They were not?
No, they went to their fathers. Timmy went to live with his dad in Barstow, and Andrew went to live with his father in Hesperia.
Okay. Were both fathers present at the hearing?
Yes, they were.
And the fathers had attorneys?
Yes, they did.
And the fathers wanted custody of the children, at least temporarily.
Temporary custody. They'd rather have them, and I would have rather had them with them than foster care.
Okay, but the judge did not return the children to you after the hearing?
No. He gave me visitation, supervised visitation.
Did your mother participate in that hearing, by the
No.
way? Only the social worker?
It was the three parents, the social worker, my attorney, and their attorneys.
And also an attorney.
We were not allowed to be there, Miss Judy.
No. Listen, I was in family court for a long time. That's how I can ask these questions. In addition to all of the adults and their attorneys, the children also had an attorney.
Correct.
And was it the position of the children's attorney that the children should not be returned to your custody at that time?
Correct.
So, Child Protective Services, after an initial evaluation, and a judge hearing the testimony, Ms. Hopkins, of the social worker, and the judge, after hearing the recommendation of the children's law guardian, decided not to return the children to you at that time.
Correct.
Then you had a second hearing.
January 8th.
And on January 8th, were both of your children returned to you?
Yes, they were.
At the fact-finding hearing, did the court make a determination as to whether either of these children had been either abused or neglected?
I have a report from the social worker.
I'd like to see the court's finding.
I have this one here.
I'd like to see it, please. Am I correct that the recommendation of the court was that your older son be returned to his father?
That was my recommendation.
No.
If you read a little
The court's
further, you'll see.
recommendation in summary is it is recommended that the court finds the allegations of the original petition to be true as amended. And that is that you admitted
to throwing the phone.
To throwing the phone in the direction of the child. You admitted to that. So the court made a finding of neglect.
I admitted I threw the phone.
Then the court made a finding of neglect against you. And then there was a dispositional hearing. And at the dispositional hearing, it looks to me as if the recommendation was that Timothy go to live with his father and that custody be granted to the father. Now, did that happen?
Yes, it did. I gave
so
up
that both
that
just
right.
So I'm correct, Ms. Hopkins, that Timothy is now in the custody of his father.
Yes, he is.
So that both children are not in your custody. Only one of them is in your custody.
I let Timmy go live with his father. The social worker and the kid's attorney asked me if I wanted him to go live with his father, and I said, it's in there. And I said, yes, because he's been transferred to 4 different schools in 3 months.
Look, there was a complaint filed. A complaint was filed by your mother because of an allegation that your son made that he was excessively corporally punished by you. Under the circumstances, she did the right thing. She saw a mark on his ear.
There were no
I'm
marks.
speaking. She saw a mark on his ear that was consistent with being hit. There is no question that your son, Timmy, told his attorney that he had in fact been hit by a phone or a piece of the phone by you in anger. The judge at the conclusion of the hearing made a finding that you did in fact neglect your child while in anger throwing an object which caused him to be injured. The judge set a disposition, which is deciding what to do about your 2 children, because if you were neglectful of one, the law presumes that you have neglected both. And the court scheduled a dispositional hearing. The recommendation that the court made was that your older child be turned over to his biological father and that custody be granted to the father. You may have agreed with that, but that was the recommendation. And that since you had attended anger management program.
Correct. Anger management and parenting.
I assume you would not have consented to unless you felt that you needed it.
I did need it.
And you went, and the judge at that time said that the judge would return your 5-year-old to you under supervision with a social worker who comes to your house occasionally.
He's home. That's the dispositional hearing.
I understand that. The 5-year-old was sent home to you, but Child Protective Services continues to monitor.
Correct.
Listen, I was in the family court 25 years. You're not talking to some jerk. Ms. Hopkins, what I'm telling you is you have no case against your mother at all because a court found that you had, in fact, neglected, under the law, both your children by losing your temper and throwing the phone. So the greater issue is, it seems to me that your children, your younger child at least, who is still in your custody, and probably your older child, who I assume that you see under this visitation arrangement.
He'll be home in 6 months.
Well, who knows whether he's going to be home in 6 months, Miss Hopkins. You're not entitled to that child any more than his father is entitled to his custody. Wherever the child is best suited, that's where the child is going to be. Right now, you have a finding of neglect against you. If the child is thriving in the care of his father, that's where the child will stay. And no judge is going to remove that child from his father's care. Maybe that the child will come home, maybe not. Now, this fiancé of yours that you called your mother about to ask her to help you get him out of the house at one point, there is no question in my mind that happened. Now, my question to you is, you have 2 children. They have 2 different fathers. You have a fiancé. Is he still living with you?
Yes, 4 years.
What kind of work does he do?
He's a correctional officer.
Does he have children of his own?
No, he does not.
Do you see your 5-year-old grandson?
I don't see either one of my grandchildren. That's one thing. When I filled out the paperwork with the CPS people, they handed me a packet and asked me to fill it out. I did, and I put in the paperwork that I would like. I didn't mind if my grandchildren went to their fathers, or even if my daughter got them back. I would just like to have grandparents' visitation rights.
There was orders made January 8th. She is not to have any contact with either child because the social worker and the children's attorney and the social worker's supervisor found that she had lied to them and that the allegations that she had made were absolutely absurd. There were no marks when they removed the children from me. There was no marks whatsoever. They took them from me to the emergency room. There were no marks on the children.
Ms. Hopkins, the original complaint was made on the 3rd of October, and Timmy was not removed until the 10th of October. By that time, in that 8-day period, bruises go away, bruises fade. The fact that you acknowledge and that the court found that in anger you injured your son, which is what he reported to his lawyer. He didn't lie to his lawyer. He didn't lie to the social worker. And in fact, he didn't lie to his grandmother. And your mother didn't lie to Child Protective Services when she called and said he was hit behind the ear with a phone that Mommy hit him with. Well, to a 9-year-old, that's true. And the fact that by the time they removed him, whatever marks your mother saw on the 3rd of October had dissipated doesn't mean that you didn't see them on the 2nd. And all I can tell you is this. Children thrive on the widest possible community of love and affection. And it may or may not be that you will be successful in securing visitation rights.
She won't, Sam.
Shh. Pay attention to me. Right now, your daughter is very angry with you. And she may continue to be angry with you. All I can tell you is, listen to me very carefully. You did the right thing. And if by doing the right thing, you lose visitation with your grandchildren while they're little, that's a price that you have to pay. Because when your grandson came to you and said that he was the victim of his mother's temper, you had 2 choices. Either you do nothing or you become active. Now, it's very possible that your daughter would not have done anything to seriously or mortally harm either of your grandchildren.
Never.
But, well, you say never. If you have a temper and you throw a phone at a 9-year-old because he wanted to call his grandmother, wanted to go and stay with her, you threw away his cards, he was having a temper tantrum, and you, Miss Hopkins, responded by having a temper tantrum.
Correct.
That's not what a parent does. Parent does not have a temper tantrum.
You're right.
Okay? Now, you did the right thing because children have to be protected.
Yes.
And you have to say to yourself, I want to see my grandchildren, I want to be part of their lives, but if the price that I had to pay for losing that while they're little was making this call, I can sleep better because I made the call. Because if I didn't make the call and something happened, I would die.
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well,
she had every right to notify the police that you had, in fact, taken the car without permission. So let me start with you, Miss Cantrell. I understand that you are married.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband is in the armed services.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he currently located?
He's in Afghanistan.
And how long has he been there?
He's been deployed since October.
This car was originally purchased for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how it came about that your father got the car in his possession.
The car was on my grandmother's property, and he took it because he was angry that my mom had left him.
Where did you get the car from, Mr. Tyler?
Judge, I originally bought the car in Cleveland, Alabama at a car auction.
What do you mean you bought the car?
I was there to buy some cars, and my ex-wife had called her, and she came over to the auction. And she seen the car, and she said, I'd like to have this for Kevin, her husband.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
So that
She
she
wrote a
bought the
check.
car.
She
You
wrote-
didn't pay for the car.
No, she
Well,
wrote
you
a check.
said I bought the car
Well,
An auction.
I
You
meant,
didn't-
Judge, that I was there to buy the car, and she wanted it, so I let her have it. That's how.
You were at an auction to buy several cars. Your daughter
Yes.
came with you. She saw a car that she wanted. She wrote out the check for it, so she bought the car.
Right.
Don't play
Right.
with me, Mr. Tyler.
Okay, I'm not, Judge.
I guarantee you
Okay.
it's not going to happen. Okay, so your daughter bought a car, and according to her, she parked it at her grandmother's house.
No, Judge.
Where was it?
It was in my yard.
So it was in the yard of the house where you were living.
Uh-huh.
Who were you living there with?
My ex-wife.
Anybody else?
My cousin.
What's the address of this house?
77, Highway 75.
And is that where the car was taken from?
No, ma'am.
Where was it taken from?
71, Highway 75.
That's where your grandmother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live next door to your mother-in-law?
That's my mother, Judge. It lives
Your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the car parked at her house at any time?
No, Judge.
Okay. How did it come about that you took control over this car?
When the car was bought, it was to be brought to my house to fix for Kevin. And at the time, Judge, they were going to pay for it to be fixed. And Kevin had gotten hurt and come home. And Kevin asked me when he was home if I would keep the car at my house until he came back and fix what it needed. And when I get home, I'll pay you for it.
Okay.
So we had a windshield put in it. When you walk out my back door, it was sitting right there with a car cover on it. Then, Judge, when my ex-wife left.
Okay, so you separated.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
It's a long story behind it. But anyway,
let's put it
when that-
simply. Alton wanted the car.
to give to her mom, because I wouldn't let her mom
Just a
have
second.
one.
In whose name was the car titled?
Mine.
Yours.
And my husband's.
So she said, I want the car. I'm going to give it to Mama.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I had told her prior to this that me and Sammy was going to fix the car. He told me, he said, if you'll pay for the parts, I'll do the labor, and when Kevin comes home, we'll give it to him. And, Judge, that's what I had in mind doing.
I don't care what you had in mind,
and
sir.
she-
I don't care what you had in mind. I got the gist of it. You and her mother separated, and she said, I want the car to give to Mama.
Right.
I assume that's because her mother didn't have a car.
Right. And,
Okay, and you said no.
and not unless you pay me.
Okay, so now you want to be paid before Kevin came back from Afghanistan.
Well, if she was going to take it. Okay.
You had made an arrangement with Kevin that he would pay you for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you're changing the contract because now you want to get paid right away.
Well, the car was to stay there, Judge, till he came home.
No, it can go anywhere that the owner says it can go.
But he told me to keep it there
But
until
then
he...
you spoke to him again and he said to give it to her.
No, he called on the phone, Judge.
I said you spoke to him again and he said to give it to my wife.
If she pays.
No.
Yeah.
He said give it to my wife.
If she pays the labor to Sammy, not the parts, but just the labor.
Labor to Sammy has nothing to do with you.
Right.
What did you do with the car?
Well, a couple of days there, the car winded up. You could tell where it had tried to be broken into. Not for sure who done it. We took it and put it in storage.
Not we, you.
Well, me and my cousin. He had done the labor on it, Judge, and I'd paid for the parts.
Did you tell her where it was?
Yes, I told her I'd put it in storage, and when she paid us, she could get it. There was a labor lien against it. And she wanted proof of it, Judge, so I sent her proof of it.
Let me see what you mailed her.
And read, may I speak, Judge?
No, now it's her turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When they sent this letter, they did send the letter, but it was not sent until after the investigator had called and spoke with him about my car.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I have the report. And
Can I
also-
see the report,
Yes,
please? That's interesting, because you send her this ridiculous note that says, I have in my possession a Pontiac Firebird, and there is a $10 storage fee on it. And then you change the amount of repair bill. It looks like you put first it was $1,300, then it was $700. I don't know. Can't figure this out. And you say if you don't respond within 90 days, the car will be sold at public auction. Now this, I don't know what date this is, but she signed for it on May 23rd, because she allegedly sent this by certified mail. But she filed this incident report on the 16th of May, which is before you sent this letter to her. So the police contacted you. Put your hand down. Police contacted you and said, where's the car? Or they
Probably.
contacted Sammy.
No, they come out and contacted me.
Oh, there you go. And then you sent her this letter.
Judge, the officer, the day he came out, he wanted a copy of that letter. The day the officer come out and talked.
It's absolutely impossible, sir, because you dated this letter May 17th. That was the next day after the officer took this complaint.
Judge, he didn't come out the day he took the complaint.
I don't care whether he came out and took the complaint on that day or not. It doesn't make any difference, sir.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is, I got the whole story. You know what the whole story is? You were mad at your ex-wife.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't want her to have a car. Don't shake your head no to me. You were angry, you didn't want her to have a car, and you had worked on this car, and when your daughter said, I'm going to give this car to Mama to use because you're not giving her a car, you said, over my dead body, because I was going to give it to Kevin, but I won't give it to the woman who I've lived with for the last, I don't know, how many years, 30 years?
24, Judge.
24, and raised a bunch of children with how many children?
4.
4 children. I'm not going to give it to her because I don't like her. I like this stranger, now husband of my child, and I'd give him for nothing, but I'm not giving it to my ex-wife because who the hell does she think she is throwing me out?
You're right.
Well, that's too damn bad. You had no right. That's too bad, Mr. Tyler. Mr. Tyler.
She took it all and gave it to a man one time. She ain't going to do it again.
Listen to me, Mr. Tyler. I don't know the reason after 24 years and raising 4 children with somebody that they say, I don't want to live with him anymore. I'm not going back over that. I don't know whether you were a good husband, whether you were not a good husband, whether you were a kind person to her, whether she was a kind person to you. I have no idea.
She's the one who left.
She may have had good reason. Let me tell you something about most women. And how old is your wife?
42.
Most women, if they have a loving mate, someone who cherishes them and cares for them,
Some of them appreciate it.
I'm speaking, and treat them well, they don't say, I'd rather go it alone. See, sometimes men do. Because, you know, men will turn around and they'll say, well, I can find somebody who's 20. What do I need? This 42-year-old who's raised my 4 children. Now, your wife must not be a bad person because her daughter says, I'm going to let you use this car if Daddy won't give you a car. So evidently, uncross your hands. Your wife may have taken your attitude for 24 years. I don't. What I'm telling you is you had no right to take that car and put it in a place where she couldn't find it. And you didn't do it because you put a mechanic's lien on it. You did it because you were PO'd at your wife. And that you had no right to do. You had no right to exercise dominion and control over a car that did not belong to you. Now, your daughter, as far as I'm concerned, should not have gone to the police, should have tried to settle this matter civilly. But then again, you took your mother's side in this altercation. Yeah, you felt badly for her.
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
You felt badly for her. So, in a family situation, should she have gone to the police? Probably not. Did she have a legal right to go to the police because you exercised dominion and control over her car? Absolutely. Don't say no. She did. And what they found when they found you not guilty wasn't because you weren't guilty of exercising control over the car, sir. What they said was, this is really a family matter, and we're not going to find you guilty of a criminal act because what you were really doing was acting vindictive. And we're not going to get involved with that. So, sir, she had the legal right, put your hand down, she had a legal right to call the police to make a police report that she no longer had a car that was titled in her name and that you had.
Even though she had brought the car down there and told me to fix it.
Listen to me, sir. You can't trip over your own words. What you said to me 10 minutes ago was, it was your intention to fix the car. First, you said you were going to make a gift to Kevin when he came back from Afghanistan. Then you changed that and you said, well, I spoke to him and he said to me the parts when he came back from Afghanistan. She never told you she would pay you for anything unless you're going to change your story again.
Judge,
Right. You have no case, Mr. Tyler. Grow up. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Husband?
Yes, it is.
And this is your granddaughter?
Yes, it is.
Clearly, from what I've read, you adore your granddaughter. The first part of your lawsuit says that you loaned your daughter money to have your granddaughter's hair done for something and she didn't pay you back. That was a while ago. I'm not dealing with that because of the second part of your lawsuit. Because the second part of your lawsuit says that you opened up a bank account for your granddaughter.
That's right, yes.
And you put some money in it, and that bank account was linked to your account.
Yes, it was.
And you gave her a bank card.
Yes.
So that when she needed money for things, she could go in and take out some money from the bank card.
Yes.
And at some point, someone overdrew that bank account, and they charged the linked account, which was yours.
Yes.
And you believe that your daughter should be responsible for that because she's the child's mother.
Yes, I do.
Who asked you to open this account for your granddaughter?
No one did. My daughter and her husband have gone through a lot of financial difficulty, and I know it's been very hard. So last September, I decided to open a bank account for Tasha so I could transfer money into her account when she needed it for things like lunch money or if she needed clothes or any emergency, as I felt she was at the age that she did need this extra money.
Oh, that's very nice of you, Miss Serraldo. That's very, just a second.
Okay, sorry.
That's lovely of you. Granddaughter, if you need money for clothes, you call Grandma.
That's right.
And I'll tell you to come on over and I'll give you $20, $50, whatever you need. I want you to have it within reason.
Yes.
You live close by?
No, we don't. That's why I opened the account. And
How far away do you live?
35 miles.
Not the other end of the world. How often do you see your granddaughter?
Not as often as I'd like to.
Well, I understand
but
that not
yes.
as often as you like. How often do you see her?
Maybe once every 2 months.
Okay. Sit down, please. I want your daughter up, please. What happened to the money, Tasha? Because part of the thing that your grandmother is complaining about, my dear, is that she didn't receive a satisfactory explanation. See how red you're getting? It's going to be all over after today. Now you're going to tell me how that money got taken out of your grandmother's account. Your grandmother and you are going to be friends after today. She knows she made a mistake. Well, if she doesn't know it, I'm telling her that she made a mistake by giving a 15-year-old an ATM card, access to money. I wouldn't do it. They don't know what they're doing. They'll go and buy drugs. They'll go and buy things that our parents have no control over. Ridiculous. How did the account get overdrawn?
The night that...
Look at me right here.
The night that this must have happened, I was babysitting. And I lost my bank card on the Friday before that Sunday because I get off school early.
Did you tell your grandmother you lost the bank card?
No, because I thought maybe I would have found it or called the bus line and they might have found it or something.
What else did you lose other than the bank card?
Just some pictures and stuff that were in my wallet.
Did you lose your whole wallet?
Yes.
The whole wallet?
Yeah.
Did you report the wallet stolen to anyone?
Just I called the bus line and asked if they had found one.
Did you go and file a report anywhere?
Yes, at the police station.
Did the police report indicate that there was a bank card in there?
I told them that my bank card was in there.
Did you tell your parents that the bank card was in there?
Yes.
Did she?
Yes.
Did you tell your grandmother that the bank card was stolen?
No, because I didn't find out that somebody had done that to my bank maybe a couple days after.
That's why you call her and say, please call and cancel the bank card.
I called and canceled the bank card.
You did?
Yes.
When?
Sunday night, because I figured if I didn't find it, then somebody might have done something with it, so I didn't want
When was the
anything
money
back.
taken out?
I don't know.
Before or after?
The Saturday.
Before?
Yes, before she reported the card gone. Yes.
Yeah. The only problem with your story, my dear, is that somebody had your PIN number.
I don't give out my PIN number at all.
Somebody had your PIN number. What?
Well, since she's done this, we found out her PIN number. Sorry, since this has happened, we found out her PIN number. She never told us her PIN number. We didn't know it before the incident happened. We since have known what her PIN number was, and it wasn't the best choice of PIN numbers.
Which was?
Her birth year. So again, a 15-year-old...
And I had my wallet information in there that had that and my phone number and
Again, a
stuff.
15-year-old not making a very good choice of a
Your
of a
PIN
PIN
number
card.
was 6 digits?
4 digits. She was born in 1990.
Ah, so that was your PIN number.
Hers, yes. Not a very smart choice. No.
That's why we don't do that, Miss Serraldo.
Well, the bank, that's why they're holding me responsible, because she used
Somebody
her birth date
had
as
a PIN number.
You're not allowed to use your birth date as a PIN number.
Okay, now.
So they won't take responsibility. They say it's mine. I have to pay
It is yours.
Yes.
It is yours. It's yours for giving a 15-year-old access to money, and it's your fault that it wasn't reported quickly enough when it first happened.
The only way I found out what was happening was the way I did the money. I would transfer it online for her, just $20 at a time. That's all she had access to. And I did it online. When I went online 2 days after this incident happened, I suddenly noticed $500 overdrawn.
Mr. Raldo, what you just said to me is ludicrous. If she only had access to $20 at a time, how come you were overdrawn $500?
Because what happened was whoever did this put an empty envelope with a note in it. The note said, F you back, and put it in the bank machine, then withdrew the $500.
Miss Serraldo.
Yes.
I have 11 grandchildren, and I guarantee you that I love each and every one of them as much as you love Tasha.
Yes.
I wouldn't think of giving him a credit card. At 15, I wouldn't think of giving them a bank account with access to money, because when they're 15 years old, they're stupid. They don't make good choices.
No, you're right, they don't.
I'm telling you right now that your mother is not responsible for this. So if you think she is, you are mistaken.
But she did tell me she would be responsible. She told me that she would pay me back.
I don't care what she told you, madam. I'm telling you that this is a court, and you chose to open up a bank account for a minor, the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. Ridiculous.
But could I explain, Judge Judy, the circumstances surrounding it?
You just told me. They were going through hard financial times. You wanted her to have some of the extras, and the best way for her to do that, you told me that. I listen. I absorb everything. And I'll tell you something else. If I ever opened up a bank account for one of my grandchildren, 15-year-old, and I did it between the two of us, my kids would be furious.
But she didn't have access to my accounts, Judge Judy. There was no access to my accounts.
They didn't have access to your account, but what you're complaining about is she overdrew that account and they took it out of your bank account.
Well, because an empty envelope was deposited in the bank machine.
Miss Geraldo, that's what happens when you entrust a 15-year-old who has friends, either her friends, or whatever. Right? Right? Cookie?
Yes.
It's not your daughter's responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility for being a foolish grandma.
But I was lied to so much. There was 3 different stories going on.
I don't care whether 3 different stories. You're asking me to say that your daughter and her husband are responsible for something that either their daughter, her friends did, or that something happened where her wallet was taken and somebody else managed to get a PIN number from the information contained in that wallet. All very possible. Bottom line is, you had no right to open up this bank account for her. And if you chose to do that, it's your responsibility.
It was an expensive mistake.
It was an expensive mistake, but don't try to blame it on somebody else. It was your mistake. Don't do it again.
No, I wouldn't.
Goodbye. Thank you. Your pet was neutered.
Yes, ma'am.
Without your permission. And she caused you a great deal of stress when she refused to divulge the name of the people who she had given the dog to when your dog turned up astray and missing. What I gather from your complaint is you were not at home. The puppy was at home with friends of yours or roommates.
Roommates.
And they negligently allowed the puppy to escape the house.
Yes,
How old was the puppy at the time?
8 months.
And how many people were supposed to be watching him?
Just one of my roommates was at home at the time.
And how did he let the dog out?
He was going to India for a trip, and he was putting up a mailbox. We have 2 doors, and my dog got out because he left the top door open and the bottom door, and he got out while he was doing that.
So he was negligent?
Yes.
On what date did he run away from your house?
On the 25th of June.
And how long had you had the puppy at the time?
I'd had him for probably like 4 months.
Where did you get him from?
A breeder.
And how much did you pay for him?
Like $300.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Mr. DeCarlos?
Sorry. Yes.
Paid $300. Did you get papers for him?
Yes, ma'am. I have
I'd like to
papers.
see them. He's a miniature pincher.
Yes.
I had one of those when I was a child. Okay, so June 25th, the puppy escapes. What did you do to find him?
Well, when I found out, I was at the library when this happened. I came home and found that my dog was gone. And so I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I went, like, immediately put up flyers to find my dog around my block and everything like that. And my roommate did help me, you know, so he did feel bad, but I can't blame him, you know. So we
Look, stop talking so fast. Oh. Doesn't like the camera.
Probably not.
That's okay.
Phoenix.
Feisty little thing. Anyway, so you put up flyers. What else did you do?
I would put up flyers.
What else did you do?
I called.
Who did you call?
Someone that found my dog responded to the flyers, and they contacted me and let me know where they had taken my dog to.
Okay, so you yourself did not call the animal rescue, animal control.
Oh, I called. I visited numerous animal shelters around where I live. Okay. And I called, like, the animal patrol, like, where I live, because I would figure, like, he'd be around in my area. But that wasn't the case at all.
So somebody saw the flyer with the dog's picture and called you?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date was that?
I'm not sure of the day exactly.
Well, it becomes important in this scenario.
Okay, it was probably like 2 to 3 weeks later, after the 25th.
3 weeks later?
Yes.
So we're now mid-July?
Yes.
Okay. And the person who called you, just for the purpose of this, said that your dog was injured?
Right. They had told me that he had been clipped by a car, and he was fine. Like, he was, by the time they took him to the animal hospital, like, he was walking and he was fine. And they told me that they had admitted him and they gave him to a nurse, and she took him home. And then they gave me the number of the place, so I called, and she definitely agreed. She said I took him home and I cared for him or whatever. And then she gave him to Yafi.
Okay.
Sad.
He's really not happy. Why don't you take him out, okay?
No, sorry.
Got a heart of a lion, that little guy. So the person at the animal shelter, they took care of your pet who had been injured.
Yes, ma'am.
And somebody was wonderful enough to take him home, nurse him back to health, and then turned him over to the defendant.
Yes.
Miss Yafi, you work for the shelter?
I work for a shelter.
And who was it that gave you the puppy?
A co-worker of mine who was working at the animal hospital when the animal was delivered.
On what date did you take custody of him?
July 3rd, which would have been a Monday morning.
Okay, go ahead.
The prior weekend, the co-worker at my weekend job, which is an emergency animal hospital, advised she had been recuperating a dog at home for 10 to 14 days, wanted to know if I would be able to find it a home. And I told her, if it's something small with a nice disposition, nothing that bites, I can always find something small a home. I did have a friend of mine who has a geriatric miniature pinscher, and that would have been my first outlet for the dog. I picked the dog up that morning from the animal hospital, which would have been Monday morning. The animal had already been neutered.
The animal had been neutered at the animal hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
So before you took custody of the animal, it was neutered?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I picked the dog up. I called my friend and let him know what I had. He contacted his wife. He has a daughter at home who's like 10 years old. And they said they would try the dog out. So the gentleman came and picked the animal up from me that same day.
Okay. When did Mr. DeCarlos contact you?
Friday, which would have been July 7th, I believe.
And he described the dog?
Yes.
And when did he get the dog back?
I'm not sure of the exact day.
When did you get the dog back, sir?
I'm not sure of the exact day either.
It was in July.
Yeah, I had to get a lawyer to actually get my dog back from her. I even offered, when I spoke with her, I was like, I will pay, these people, I'll buy them a new dog. I just want my dog back. That's all that I really cared about. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna. I don't want to make these people unhappy and this, that, and the other. But I'm like, it's my dog. I came forward. It's my dog. And on top of everything, Your Honor, she lied. She was lying to me about everything.
I never lied.
Your Honor, she told me that the dog was in the facility when it was not. And I have documentation from her job right here that says that they did an investigation on her and they found her guilty of everything.
Well, let me see what you have. Ms. Yafi, you did not make the dog available to the plaintiff when he called you. You want to tell me why?
The animal had been in the home already.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
I was really apprehensive about contacting the people and letting them know that an owner had come forward for the animal. They've got a 10-year-old daughter. I knew the dog was in a good home, a good, responsible home.
Okay. You made a misjudgment.
In hindsight, yes.
You made a misjudgment. Okay. I see Mr. DeCarlo said what this says is that they conducted an investigation to determine whether or not Ms. Yafi's actions were within departmental guidelines of the animal control. And it says that the actions of the employees were not within our best policy nor our best practice of the police department and animal control facility, and your complaint has been sustained. Okay. So you should have gotten your dog back.
Yes.
So?
I did get my dog back. Well, the reason why I'm suing is because my dog was neutered.
That's not her problem. That's your roommate's problem. That's not her problem. Nobody did anything to intentionally inflict injury on your puppy. Nobody. What happens is when an animal, I assume that something must have happened to the puppy's tags and or chip, which you should have had on the puppy so that the puppy could have been easily identifiable.
Yes, ma'am.
And that wasn't there. Am I right, Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes, ma'am, you're right.
It had a chip inserted in the puppy, which everybody recommends now.
Yes.
Or you had a collar with your telephone number and way to contact you, we wouldn't be here today. So that's Your fault. It's not her fault that your dog was neutered. She didn't neuter the dog.
Right, but she knew it was taking place, like she knew about it.
So what? Not every grievance, Mr. DeCarlos, is a lawsuit. Now, I agree with you that the defendant, and she acknowledges in hindsight, she should have turned the dog back over to you. It was a mistake on her part. She can't say, well, they've come attached to the dog in 4 days and I don't feel comfortable about calling, you know, and say you have to return the dog to its rightful owner. But she's not responsible for the fact that your dog was neutered.
So should I, like, sue, like, the animal hospital that they have no documentation, or?
Absolutely not. You shouldn't sue anybody. You should take your dog home and teach him not to growl. You know, you got your dog back in one piece, and the fact that he's neutered, what difference does it make?
Well, I was planning on breeding him.
Plan something else. Your own negligence in failing to have proper identification on the dog caused the dog to go into a shelter without any known information. That's your negligence, so go sue yourself. Your case against the defendant is dismissed. Goodbye. And the defendant and some other boys, maybe some of these boys here, were friends.
Yes, they used to.
Well, you say that they didn't treat him nicely and they used him for rides and stuff when they needed him.
Right, Your Honor.
But at some point, according to you, this young man posted some very, very rude things about you.
Right, Your Honor.
On something called MySpace.
Right, Your Honor.
MySpace is one of these internet sites where people who have nothing better to do with their time go and chat about a whole bunch of nonsense.
Right, Your Honor.
Is that about what it is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that about right?
Right.
That's about right.
You know, I always said that we could eliminate probably a third of the problems in this country if people actually had to shovel coal in a furnace for heat rather than spending all that spare time that they have making problems for other people and sitting behind their computers doing things other than for which computers were originally designed. Mr. Luna says, First Amendment. I can post anything I like on the internet because there's free speech in this country. That is your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Really?
Yes.
Is that what you think the Constitution says, Mr. Luna?
Well, first of all...
I didn't ask you first of all. That required a yes or a no answer, sir. Is that what you think the Constitution says? That
Yes.
you can
Yes, Your
say anything you want to about anybody?
On certain grounds, yes. But I believe that I didn't write anything that really damaged her reputation as she claimed.
All right. Well, then let's see what you said, because I had no clue about what you said here. First, Mr. Luna, since there is no issue, sir, that you posted these things about Mrs. Mendelsohn on this internet site, I'd like to know why you did it.
Okay. Well, it all started when me, myself...
Self is the same person, I assume, unless you're bipolar.
Me and my friends were talking just online, just joking while we were waiting for our classes. And then we just talked about certain stupid things, I know. And then...
You talked about stupid things while you were waiting for change of classes in college?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, we were online.
Who's paying for your school?
My father.
Your father is paying for you to
Yes.
be in school and talk about stupid things with your friends in between classes? Is that what you think you're paying for, sir?
Not really.
Good, perfect. Love to hear it. You and I are going to get along just fine. Go ahead.
Well, we were just waiting for our classes because I
don't care why you were waiting for your classes. I asked you why you said bad things about Mrs. Mendelsohn.
Well, it was just to relieve our stress and frustrations.
Why don't you
from
get a
her.
job?
Well, I had school. I'm a full-time college student.
Well, then why are you writing about Mrs. Mendelsohn to relieve your stress?
Because beforehand, she was making comments about us, me and my friends, specifically.
Oh, on the internet?
No, like to her son.
So she was having a private conversation with her son about you and your friends?
Yes, and then...
She's allowed to do that?
Yes, but it was very rude and very untrue. And she assumed many things, and she would tell him...
Who cares? Who cares what she assumed? She's having a private conversation with a child. She's not publishing anything. Let me see what you wrote about her.
I have it right here.
Did your father see it?
Yes.
When did you show it to him?
About a month ago.
When did you write it?
October 26th.
So why did you wait so long to show your father?
Well, because number one, I was trying to handle my own business. And then the month after October 26th, I actually forgot about the conversation, because that is a conversation between me and Derek.
You know what I find most distressing about this, Mr. Luna? Is that you're illiterate, and so is your friend. And that your family is wasting a whole lot of money sending you to college and getting an illiterate person at the end. Mr. Luna?
Can I say something, Your
Mr.
Honor?
Luna, did you read this?
Yes, Your Honor. I read it lately, Your Honor.
Stand up, sir.
May I say something about the case, Your Honor?
No, you may say nothing about the case, sir. You may answer my questions. First of all, Mrs. Mendelson, I have just read this.
Yes.
Okay? This is not actionable, which means that you can sue, but you're not going to win. What is written here, if I can read it,
Yes,
because
Your Honor.
it looks like it's written by somebody who was educated in some third world country where they only go up to kindergarten. Watch what W-A-T, you say about her cuz, C-U-Z. She might come to your house, Y-R, and do crazy, and that's a bad word, I'll leave that out, like castrating you and sewing I'll use a different word, testicles back on backwards and sewing your foot and you with it. Okay? It's stupid. Do you know what? That's what you're complaining about, right?
Yes,
Listen
Your
to me.
Honor.
Listen to me. I didn't know what he had said about you. What he said about you was stupid. Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody's thinking you're going to come to somebody's house and you're going to do that to them. He's just being stupid. So it doesn't even amount to free speech. It amounts to the rantings of some juvenile who's just being dumb. Do you understand?
Yeah. And I was really upset because...
Well, I can understand you were upset, but that's not actionable. Now, was this young man your friend, Mr. Luna?
Yes, we were very close.
You say some bad things about him.
Well, it was jokingly.
Well, it's not an answer, sir. You say if you were very, very close. Why do you say bad things about him in here?
It's friendly banter between us. That's what we do.
Who was bantering here? Not him.
Well, it's between me and...
No. Between you and him. You weren't bantering with each other, calling each other funky names. You were bantering with him, and you were making fun of him. Mr. Luna, that makes you not a very nice person when you say he was a friend of mine.
Yes, but all of us are friends. We do the same things to each other. But
Does he have a car?
Yes.
Do you have a car?
No.
Who drove you around?
Well, sometimes Irving drives me around, sometimes my friend Manuel or Derek recently. But it's not like I'm...
It's not like you're using him or anything.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Mr. Luna, your son did a disrespectful thing, but not actionable. So you don't have to worry. He doesn't have to pay Mrs. Mendelson any money. I don't know if he's a nice young man or not a nice young man. Only you know that.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yes.
He's a nice young man. In fact, he helped Irving in his religion class, and he's kind of mentoring this guy. I mean, they were friends, Your Honor, and it all started...
Did you read this?
Yeah, I know, I read it. But it all started when Mrs. Mendelson tried to blame my son and his friends that they are using drugs.
Yes.
And she's trying to, separate his son from these guys who are nice people. I just don't know why Mrs. Mendelson is so mad at my son.
Maybe you want to tell me, Mrs. Mendelson?
The truth, Your Honor, is that I never said that they're using drugs. It was a lie. What I told my son is that because I saw a lot of this abuse from Christian sending all those messages against him, and I told my son, stop giving him a ride and transfer to other school. And I didn't mention anything about drugs. You're wrong.
Well, who told you that Mrs. Mendelson accused you of using drugs?
Her son.
He told you?
Yes.
Irving, stand up next to your mother. Did you ever tell this young man that your mother accused him of using drugs?
Not exactly.
What do you mean, not exactly, Irving?
Well, she said that she doesn't want me hanging around people who do drugs.
Okay, so?
And in that sense, that's what I said to Christian.
But she never accused Christian of doing drugs? No. That's your answer, Mr. Luna. What else?
I would just like to clear something out. I didn't use Irving to give me rides. I don't just randomly call him and he's like, oh, can you give me a ride to this so-and-so place? I would ask him a ride if we were going there together. But I've never used them just
Christian, I want you to listen to me very carefully.
Okay.
Having access to a machine like a computer and access to a place like MySpace where you can say very damaging and hurtful things doesn't mean that you should use it. When you write something like this, even though it sounds asinine, juvenile, and stupid, it was still hurtful to Mrs. Mendelson. It's not the kind of thing that the courts will take action about, but it's the kind of things that you shouldn't write about one person because it's just unkind. And you can't hide behind the cloak of anonymity when you do that because it's out there for millions and millions and millions of people to read. And it's hurtful. And I say this to you and to your friends and to you and anybody else who uses the internet. Once you put something down and go send or whatever you do, because I don't use that machine, it's out there, and it's out there forever, and it's hurtful. You have to be careful. That about her was unkind.
I know that, Your Honor.
Very good. Then you tell him he did the wrong thing? Tell him to apologize to her?
In fact,
say, shh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Mendelson.
Okay.
That's it.
Just don't do it again, ever.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
But apparently are intelligent people getting themselves involved in somebody else's mess. Miss Lane, according to you, you allowed this young lady, would that be you? The child of this young lady over here, to move into your house because she was the girlfriend of your 15-year-old son. Nothing could be dumber. Let's start out with that.
I agree, Your Honor.
Perfect. Then we have no problem.
In hindsight, it was a
The
mistake.
dumbest thing, and people do it all the time, seemingly intelligent people. A parent can't control their child. A parent says, I'm just as happy if some stranger takes her into the house, or some stranger takes him into the house. And reasonably intelligent people say, well, maybe I can fix this problem, and bring them into their home, which is probably a very calm, reasonable place to live, and all of a sudden there's turmoil. In any event, having gotten that off my chest for the rest of the world to hear, don't take somebody else's problem children into your house. She came to live with you.
Yes.
And there was an episode where you believed that she required immediate medical assistance.
Yes.
She was taken to a hospital emergency room. You're responsible for the bill, and you want her mother to pay that bill.
Correct.
Then there are charges and counter charges of harassment, which I'm really not interested in, because I think that that's a bunch of nonsense, because if this bill had been paid, we wouldn't have any harassment. So I'm turning to Miss Hess. Why did you allow your 17-year-old daughter to move out of your house?
Well, number one, she was rebelling. I said, do you want to take your little wings and fly and test me on this, being 17 years old and working 2 jobs and trying to maintain? Then you go right ahead.
Just a second. Who's working 2 jobs, her or you?
I was.
Okay.
And I tried to talk to this lady, but it wasn't possible.
Just a second. So you told her to get out?
Well, she took it upon herself
No,
to
just
do
a
it
second.
time.
I'm asking you whether you told her to get out.
At the time, when she was yelling and screaming about it, I said, well, if you think that's what you need to do, Chris, then you go right ahead. And then you're going to find out.
You're talking about your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
You said to your daughter, get out.
17, rebelling. No.
Did your mother tell you to get out of the house?
No.
What did she say?
I said I wanted to go live with Francesca.
And your mother said what?
She said, if that's what you want to do, then go.
Your Honor.
What?
The story that I was receiving was that Kristen was having extreme abuse issues with her mother.
From whom?
From her mother.
From whom were you receiving this story?
Both Kristen and my son.
All I want you to do is tell me what Kristen said to you, not your son. Where is your son?
He does not want any further...
He's not here.
Correct.
Fine, then you can't tell me anything that your son had to say, only what Kristen had to say to you. Tell
Okay.
me what she said about the abuse she was having from her mother.
She said that there was physical abuse. She also stated that her mother had some mental issues and that there was some extreme situations regarding that.
Is that what you told her?
No. I
What did
never
you tell
talked to
her?
her about anything.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I didn't.
Well, what reason did you give her for wanting to come and live with her?
She wanted me to be a nanny.
Nah, that's ridiculous. That's a lot of baloney.
I don't need a nanny.
Just to say, that's a lot of baloney.
Her husband was going to Iraq, and she said she wanted me to move in to help with Carly.
That's baloney. You just told me that you had this discussion with your mother, and your mother said you were rebelling, and you were talking back to her, and you were difficult. And you said, I want to go move in with my boyfriend. And she said, if that's what you want to do, go. So don't tell me she offered you a job as a nanny, because that's ridiculous.
I think that's what it ended up being when she got there. Then she
Well, when she got there, she may have said, listen, can you help me out with the children or the child or whatever it is? That's fine. I mean, she's living there. She's supporting her. I assume you gave her no money, right?
No, of course not.
Of course. Well, that's not of course not. It's not of course not. You told her to go. That doesn't mean you're absolved
Right.
from the responsibility of supporting her. She's under 18. Do you understand?
Right.
Fine. Okay. So when she got there, she said, listen, you're here, you're eating my food, you're living under my roof, you're using my gas and electric and water and telephone. You could help out with the kids. But that's not why you went. Now tell me about this episode that landed you in the hospital. You had a what?
Urinary tract infection.
From too much sex?
No.
From what?
I get them. It runs in my family. We get them really easily.
Oh. Have you had that problem when you lived with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Has your mother ignored the problem?
No, ma'am.
She's taken care of the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
How has she taken care of the problem?
She would take me to the doctor.
And how often did she do that?
Every time I would get sick.
You know why she did that?
Because she cares.
No, because she cares. I hope she cares, but she did that because the law requires that she take care of her minor child's medical conditions. Otherwise, she's guilty of neglect. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, when you were living with Miss Lane and you got this urinary tract infection, tell me about what you did. Did you scream? Were you crying?
Yeah, I was crying.
Were you crying because you told her you were in pain?
Yes.
What did you say to her?
I said my stomach hurts really bad.
So what did Miss Lane do?
She wanted to take me to the hospital.
And what did you say?
I said I wanted to wait for my mom to get off work to take me.
Is that what you told her?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what she told you?
No.
What did she say?
In fact, Kristen had spent the majority of the day with her mother, and her mother had gone into work late in the evening.
You mean it wasn't hurting when you were with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you tell your mother about it?
Yes.
And what did she do?
She wanted to take me.
What did she do?
Nothing.
Right. She went to work.
Exactly.
And you went to work. And you went back to Miss Lane's house.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you have a history of urinary tract infections and you know that it becomes a problem and it's chronic, why didn't you take the day off from work and take her to the doctor?
I told her I was going to take her the next day to doctor's care. We didn't have the money for the emergency room. I said, drink water and cranberry juice through the night until I can get to you because we didn't have the money to take off. And I said, I'll take you tomorrow, first thing.
Then you're neglecting your child. Why didn't you take her that day?
Because I had to work.
That's not an excuse when your child is sick.
She couldn't drink water and cranberry juice. I've done that for years.
An excuse. Well, evidently it didn't work.
This one here kept calling, harassing me at work. Tried to run my daughter off the road.
Just a second.
Going to school, I said, Kristen, let me help you. Mom, I can handle it. Mom, I can handle it. It's been nothing that's been like a fatal attraction.
What are you blabbering about? Now, your daughter spends the day with you. She tells you that she's got the urinary tract infection back, which she's had before, which you know is chronic, which she says runs in your family. And you say to her, go home to Miss Lane's house, drink water and cranberry juice, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I said, drink water and cranberry juice so I can get you there tomorrow, because I was at work.
Till tomorrow. What did I say that was wrong?
I was at work day and night that day.
Who cares? Your child is sick. You're not supporting her. How long had you been living with Miss Lane before you got this urinary tract infection?
Maybe not even a month.
And in the month's period of time, how much money did you give Miss Lane from your mother to cover your expenses?
I only paid like $15. The agreement was $15 a week for a few
How
weeks.
much money did you get from your mother to give Miss Lane to take care of your expenses was my question.
None. None.
You have other children at home?
I have 4 children.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
16 and 18.
So you have a 16-year-old
I have a 16-year-old in Virginia with her father.
So you don't have any children at home?
She lives with me.
She wasn't living with you when she lived with Miss Lane.
I didn't want her to go over there. She shouldn't have let her go over there. And it turned into a harassment thing with this lady.
Miss Hess, that's a lot of excuses. If your daughter spent the day with you, day before this incident occurred, then you should have said to her, sweetheart,
I was not
you're not going
spending
home.
the day with her that day. I was at work.
Oh. How much is the bill?
Your Honor, I have one bill for $13.86, a physician bill for $2.11, and I also took care of all her prescription bills, which came to right around $70.
But Your Honor.
Go.
Can we show you on the paperwork where this one went
She
there?
told me that she wanted to foster me. She wanted to adopt me, put me on her health insurance, her driving insurance, wanted to make me part of the family, everything. She even wrote it on the paper that she was my foster mom, told me not to worry about the bill, that she would take care of it until Colby broke up with me, and now she's trying to get me for the bill.
Went back and changed
You
the paper.
are an idiot. And that's also probably congenital. Listen to me very carefully. Your mother is responsible until you are 18, which you are not, for your food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and all other necessaries, period. End of discussion. Unless you are an emancipated minor, which I haven't heard you went to court to become an emancipated minor. Do I make myself clear? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $16.67. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parrish, who was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time, owes you some money for rent and also for harassing you. Mr. Parrish says that you're actually the one who's bothering him, that he contributed to the rent while he was living at the apartment with you and your children. But when he moved out of the apartment after a disagreement, he stopped paying rent. He's not on the lease. He feels no obligation to pay rent when he's not living there. Okay. When did you move into the apartment with Mr. Parrish?
After we got engaged December of '05.
Did he give you a ring?
Yes, he did. I have it with me.
Okay.
And I even went with my mom and bought a wedding dress, and I bought my daughter's dresses. We were going to have a ceremony on the beach. And
when did you move in together?
Mid-February of '06. And he went with me to the leasing office. When we went to fill out the forms for the application fee, which was $150, and to transfer within the same complex to a 2-bedroom, that was $500.
So you had a 1-bedroom apartment with your 2 children?
Correct.
Where were you living, sir?
I was renting a house in Chesapeake,
with
which is
his mother.
about 35 minutes from where she was living.
Okay, so you weren't living together in the 1-bedroom apartment?
No.
No.
I'm looking at him.
Sorry.
So you moved into the 2-bedroom apartment in February of 2006, and the lease was in your name only.
Correct, but we had discussed, we had an agreement that we would rent the 2-bedroom together for 1 year to save up money to buy a house for after we got married.
Good.
And he paid half the rent for 10 months.
Right, I got you, while he lived there.
Right, correct.
And he paid the rent faithfully, half of the rent, despite the fact that
Yes.
he's only 1 person out of 4 living in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they were
Just-
minors.
I don't care if they're minors or not. He's 1 person out of 4.
Correct.
Living in the apartment. You get child support for your 2 children?
I get for 1 child because he has them half of the month and I have them half the month.
So you get child support for 1 child?
Correct.
How much?
$400 a month.
Okay. And he paid half of the other expenses on the apartment for the 10 months that he was living there?
Yes, he did. He paid half the utilities.
Half of everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what happened when he moved out?
He didn't give me any notice. He just...
So you must have had a disagreement.
We got into a fight.
About what?
I had asked him to do the dishes, and he was watching TV.
Just you could get a turn.
And I waited about 2 hours. He still hadn't done it, so I went ahead and did it. And I got upset with him. I said, thanks a lot for helping me out around the house. You know, you eat on the dishes too. And he said, well, I was going to do it. I didn't know there was a time limit. And he started yelling at me. My youngest daughter was home. He was yelling in front of her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you yelling around her. He said, well, then I won't. And he went and, where are you going? He's like, I'm moving out. He gave me no notice. I said, what do you mean? Are you going to a hotel room? And he's like, no, I'm moving out. I'm not coming back.
Ms. Holtz, there must have been some clue to you prior to that things weren't going well.
We had had a few disagreements, yes, about...
So things were not going well?
Correct.
Well, you don't want your children to be involved with that sort of hostile environment, do you?
No, but he had only yelled 1 other time in a year and a half. And
well,
it
that's
wasn't
fine. That's fine.
Day occurrence.
That's fine. You don't want it to get any worse, do you? You don't want your children in an environment that's not healthy.
No, that's why...
So that it would be a... Shh. So that it would be a good idea that he left.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
But I felt he was obligated for the last 2 months of the rent.
Where are you living now?
I just moved to a smaller apartment that I could afford on my own.
Just a second. How much rent was this apartment that you moved into together?
$1,203 a month.
And how much was the rent in the apartment that you had been living in?
It was $988. The 1-bedroom, and my new rent is $895.
So the difference in rent was $200 a month between the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom.
Right, but if we wouldn't have gotten engaged, I wouldn't have gotten that apartment. I would have gotten something I could afford on my own.
Listen
Your
to
Honor.
me. I look at objective things. Objectively, you were paying $1,000 on one, and this is $1,200.
And I knew I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a roommate, or if we hadn't gotten engaged. I would have gotten a smaller apartment on my own. And I also I have bank checks for the transfer fee and the application fee, which he agreed to pay half of. And I also have harassment. I want like $1,000 for phone harassment. I have records, phone records of him
You
calling.
mean after, you just a second, Ms. Holtz, do you mean to tell me after he moved out, because he said he wanted it over.
Correct.
He started calling you. You didn't call him.
No.
Just a second. Just
no,
listen
ma'am.
to me. You just listen to me. You didn't call him.
No, Your Honor.
He
No.
called you.
Yes, and I have tape recording of it, calling me terrible names.
You
He
never
might.
called me.
Just a second. Mr. Parrish,
Yes, ma'am.
when you left, sir, it is your claim that Miss Holtz called you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say when she called you?
She called me a lot of adjectives that I won't use here, and I left. The reason I left was more than just the dishes.
Go ahead, sir.
To back up and give you some background of just that day, I won't be long-winded. It was a Sunday morning. I had some work to do. I was going to do it early in the morning. Instead, I put that work off until the afternoon. While she laid in bed, I did the dishes, fed the kids, cleaned the kitchen, did 2 loads of laundry, put all that away, spruced the house up while she's still in bed, asked her if there's anything else I can do before I went and did my work. No, everything's fine. I went away and worked for, it took me about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a small contractor.
Go ahead.
It took about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back. The NFL football playoffs were on. I watched the second half of the first game. The next game was the Dallas game, which I'm a huge fan. She knows that. I sat down to watch that. In the meantime, she had gone in the kitchen and started going off about everything. I had left a Walmart receipt on the counter from where I bought some groceries the day before, which I bought my share and then some of the groceries for all 4 of us. She started griping about the receipt on the table. You know, why'd you leave this receipt here? You want money from me? I said, did I ever ask you for money? Is this why you left the receipt? She on and on and on. This goes on for over an hour.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt him.
After the conclusion of that, she goes and stands in front of the television, or not directly in front of it, right beside it, hand on her hip, and says, you've watched one football game, now I expect you're going to sit here and watch another one? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I'm going to watch another one. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm going to watch the game. And she said something, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up. I had some shirts and some clothes in the apartment. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaving. I've had enough.
Your Honor, he never works on Sundays. He hates working on Sundays. He did not go to work
Your
that
Honor,
day.
I'm a...
What difference does it make whether he
Because
went
he's
to work or
lying.
not?
It's showing that he lies. He's
I did
lying.
go to work.
Ms. Holtz, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And what doesn't make sense to me is I listened to him only for a couple of minutes, and I've made a judgment, because I'm usually good at making judgments, that he's not a nut.
Thank you.
I don't.
You haven't heard this.
Oh, I don't think he's a nut. I think maybe he was stretched to the limit, but I don't think he's a nut. And I think when he left, he probably would have left you alone. But you started bugging him because you were angry, just as you are angry right now. You are so angry right now, you can't even contain yourself.
I'm just nervous, Your Honor.
You're angry. You're still angry.
I'm angry at what he called me, yes. He called me very vulgar and obscene things, and I don't deserve that.
I'm going to ask you again to answer my question and answer it honestly. After he left that day, who called who first?
He called me.
First?
Yes, he
And
called me 27 times.
Just a second. So what did he say, Miss Holtz, when he called you after he left?
He said that I only think about myself, that I'm a self-centered, and I can't repeat what he called me. And yes, I did call him once. I asked him for my key back.
Just a second. My question was, who called who first?
He called me first. I have the phone records.
You have a phone record that shows all your outgoing calls?
Yes, I do, but his is first.
Great. Let me take a look at what you have. Put a mark next to where you called him.
I'll put a star where I called him. All the other check marks are him calling me.
Just go back to the beginning.
The beginning is where he left on the 6th.
What's your phone number, sir?
286.
At your mother's house?
That's my cell phone. That's the only.
At your cell phone?
That's the only phone I use, yes, ma'am.
Well, on the 6th, madam, 286 is outgoing.
It says incoming.
Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then you have a couple of incoming. But on the 6th, I want you to point to where I've checked this off, please, and let her look at it.
All the highlighted ones. Okay.
I'm not talking highlighted. Look at where I made the check marks.
That was in the afternoon. He was still home. Or he was still, he hadn't moved out yet. That was in the afternoon.
Why would she call me?
The next day. It's the next day when he started harassing me.
Listen to me. Okay, give it back to me.
Incoming, incoming, incoming. These are all incoming.
Miss Holtz, you don't want me to think you're a nut, do you?
No, ma'am.
On the 6th, according to you.
That night.
I'm speaking. You called him at a time when you said he wasn't out working, because you said he doesn't work on Sundays. So clearly, you called him at that cell phone number, 216, 252, and 252.
Yes, he went to the grocery store.
So what'd you call him 3 times for?
He called me, and I called him back on several occasions.
So he went to the grocery store for whom?
For all of us. We all had to eat.
So he was out on family business?
Yes, before we got in a fight. Yes, ma'am, he was.
After I finished working.
Just a second. Okay. Then the next phone call on the 7th of January was a phone call from you to him at 8:09 p.m. and he called you back at 8:29. You called him first. Then you called him at 9:10 p.m., 6:59 a.m., 7:30 a.m.
He wouldn't return my call to get my key back, Your Honor.
Please.
And I have the text messages right here of all the incoming text messages.
Okay, Miss Holtz, I'm going
to
listen to me, madam. You got to get over it. Get over it.
It's okay to call somebody the B word and the C word?
Get over it. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Did your mother ever teach you that? You have to get over it. It's finished. You may be angry. You may be angry that you devoted 10 months of your time to him. He may not have said nice things to you. I mean, you can tell.
I've had 24 calls since the 9th on here.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm looking at your phone records.
I don't have them.
You called him first.
To get my key back and my mailbox key back.
Change the lock. What? Go ahead.
I just want to clear up a couple of things. You've done a nice job of clearing up the harassment. First of all, I don't understand her suing me for ever how much she sued me for, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy. I could understand that, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
Mr. Parrish.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish, listen to me. Not necessary, sir.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
Not necessary.
Okay.
She may be stressed. She's a single mother.
She's a good mother.
She's a single mother. Takes care of the kids. Money, I'm sure, is tight. I'm sure it was much more comfortable when you were there.
I understand.
Much less stressful financially when you were there. You're not there anymore. A life she anticipated is over. But I don't think that you're responsible for any rent when you weren't living there. I think that you took care of more than your fair share of the bills when you lived there in a family that was really not yours. You left. The responsibility is hers. She was angry. And these phone records do not support harassment on your part, sir. I mean, common sense dictates that if you left, you would have been just as happy to be left alone. Period. But very hard when you are stressed to deal with that kind of change. I get it. But you're not entitled to any money, madam. The case is dismissed. That's
Your
all.
Honor.
That's all. The defendant in his house?
In a house, yes.
In a house. Do you live in the house also, sir?
Yes, I do.
And the intention was for you to live there for a year, although you did not have a written lease?
Correct.
It was your understanding that there was some sort of internet capacity in the house because you worked from the house?
Correct.
Did you have a discussion with the defendant about that?
About it before I moved in, or it
Yes,
not working?
before.
Yes.
In any event, you moved in and you found out that you could not work from the house because there was no, I don't know, Zoom, internet, whatever it is. I don't do that machine. And you told him you were going to be moving out.
After it did
You
not
want
work.
your security deposit back. The defendant says that you broke the lease that you had with him because he was supposed to stay there for a year, even though you did not have a written lease. And even though he rented your apartment or your room, he doesn't have an obligation to return your security deposit. In addition, he says that you took a piece of property that belonged to the house, some sort of a modem. So let's get to his counterclaim to begin with. Do you have his modem?
No.
Did you take his modem?
No.
What makes you think she took your modem?
Well, I have a photograph of the modem in the house under her desk at the time that she moved out, and it's gone along with the other property. So I can only assume that she has it along with the other things that were in the room.
Is it possible you have his modem somewhere?
I did look. I don't have it. But I can also tell you that the desk that it was behind, I didn't remove from the room.
Who did?
The roommate that moved in. He had to disassemble it.
Okay, I removed the desk along with the roommate and removed the plasma television from the wall and put it outside.
She doesn't have your modem. She doesn't have your modem, and she doesn't look like a thief.
I agree.
Good. So we've taken care of your counterclaim.
Well,
she doesn't have
well,
it.
not quite. I don't know if she has it.
She says she doesn't have it, and you have no proof that she took it.
I have proof that it was under her desk at the time that she moved out, and now it's nowhere to be found. Time
Well,
Warner?
you have a new roommate in there.
Right.
Maybe the new roommate took it when you were disassembling it.
We've gone through the entire room. We've
Just
looked
a second. I didn't say that you haven't gone through the entire room. Maybe he took it. Maybe he's the thief. You don't think so?
Well, I never actually...
No. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she is either. Doesn't a lady who has a responsible position, who gave you a substantial security deposit, who paid her rent on time when she was living there, would steal something from you and then look at me in the eye and say, I don't have it. I didn't take it. I don't have it.
I mean, you say that she's a responsible person. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, who agrees to a one-year lease and then leaves 4 months after it?
I'm going to tell you somebody, sir. She. And now she's going to tell me why she left. You gave him a security deposit in the amount of $2,500?
The security deposit was just $1,250.
Okay.
It was in addition
and
to
it's
personal
clear,
rent.
Mr. Rodriguez, because there's no allegation, that she left the room in other than reasonable conditions. So
Absolutely.
the only reason you're not returning her security deposit is because she breached the lease.
Correct.
Okay. When did you move in?
August 10th.
Did you pay August's rent?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you pay September's rent?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
What about October?
Paid the rent in full.
And November?
Paid the rent in full.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And when did you tell the defendant that you were leaving?
In the middle of October.
Did you tell him why?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him that the internet continued to have problems
It would continually break down, and therefore I would spend numerous hours continuing to try to make it work, try to connect it, and if it didn't, I'd have to call Time Warner.
And what did he say?
He said that he didn't realize that it was that big of an inconvenience, that he would have done more about it if he'd known that it was going to make me move out of the house.
The first time that I had heard that it was a problem was at the point that she was moving out. I had no idea when she moved in that she was planning to run her business or her part of her business out of the room.
Did she tell you that she needed internet connection, sir?
Absolutely.
And what did you tell her about it?
That there's internet connection that we all use. All 4 other people that live in the house are still to this day using an internet connection. However, it doesn't run at the speed that she needs to run her business. I never knew that she needed a specific speed to be run.
Is it slow running?
It runs average. It runs normal for me.
It would break down in my part of the room. It was split. The last time Time Warner had come to the house, they had spliced it so many times, according to what they say, that they would
tell me what they said to you. But you told him in mid-October, and you moved out in December.
December 1st.
When did the new roommate move in?
December 6th.
The new roommate's name is?
Lee.
How much was your rent each month?
$1,250.
And what is Lee's rent?
$1,250.
Did he pay December's rent?
Not in full.
In what amount did he not pay?
He paid minus 5 days of rent. I'm not sure the exact dollar amount.
Okay. Did you have all your property out by December 1st?
Minus a plasma TV and a desk.
So you did not have all your property out by December 1st?
Correct.
When was all of your property out?
I know for sure it was all out as of the 4th.
So you overstayed your stay by 4 days?
Yes.
Okay. You cannot profit, sir, from a situation that was handled totally appropriately. She did not damage the property. She gave you notice.
She absolutely did damage the property, Your Honor. I have proof that she damaged the property.
Oh, well, you didn't say that. Wait a second. Hold on a second. I want to see if you said that in your answer. Did you? Would you please show this to Mr. Rodriguez? That's his sworn answer. Would you please have him point out in his answer where he says that he's not returning her security deposit because she damaged the property?
I asked her to remove the trash, but she never did. I had to hire a repairman to clean out the trash, repair the walls, and change the locks.
Repair what walls, sir?
So the plasma television that she says that she moved out, or that I took down myself and put outside, left behind a number of large holes in the wall.
Show me your bill for fixing the holes in the wall.
This is the bill for fixing the holes in the wall.
Okay.
This is the estimate that it would have cost to remove all of those things and put them outside.
No. All I want is fixing the holes in the wall.
Your Honor, if I was...
Why did you change the locks?
Well, I didn't know Crystal before she moved in, and I...
Sir, you want to change the locks, change the locks. That's what you do as a landlord.
But, Your Honor, if I was in the business of being a landlord and...
Listen to me, sir. I want to see a picture of the wall, and I want to see a bill for spackling the hole in the wall. Period. Okay.
Your Honor, we had a 1-year lease agreement.
You did not have a 1-year lease, sir. 1-year lease has to be in writing. Otherwise, it's a month to month. She gave you a month's notice. She gave you more than a month's notice.
Your Honor, we had a verbal lease agreement.
No, you have a lease agreement, sir, when it's in writing if it's for a year or more. Other than that, you have a month-to-month tenancy. And if you want something more than that, and if you want to lay out your rights and responsibilities, go get a form lease and sign it, and then you have a lease for a year or more. Do you understand? The only reason I am charging her the extra days is because she actually had property in your house. And if she actually has property, even if it's in the hall, that means she's still a tenant. So she didn't vacate December 1st. She actually kept property there for at least 4 days. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt for the 5th day because that's when you moved the new roommate in. So I am deducting $200.
Your Honor, the lease that you say is month to month. If I was interested in a beach rental for month to month, I would have charged much more than $1,250 a month.
Do whatever you want to do. You want to lease your place for a year or more, get a written lease that outlines everybody's responsibility. Other than that, you have a month-to-month tenancy. Most jurisdictions that I know. Now, it may be different from where you are, but any contract that has a duration for a year or more is supposed to be in writing. And if you choose not to do that, you do so at your own peril, sir. And you cannot profit from it. You didn't lose any money. You rented the room and took an additional security deposit. You didn't lose a month's rent. Ms. Anderson did absolutely the appropriate thing. She let you know in October that she was vacating in December, so she gave you more than 30 days to find a new roommate. You did, in fact, find a new tenant who paid you the exact same amount of money that she did. And I'm deleting from her request the amount that covers the 5 days that your tenant didn't pay for the month of December, giving you more than she's actually liable for because she's not liable for more than 30 days. but she kept stuff there, so she is, in fact, responsible for at least part of it. So you owe her $950. I am taking off $200 for the overstay because you lived there past December 1st, and I'm taking off $100 to plaster the wall. By the way, where did the new tenant put his TV?
He doesn't have a hanging television.
$950. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you. That's all. Ms. Powers, this is your son?
Yes.
According to your complaint, your son and the defendant had been friends.
Correct.
They were out together one evening. There was a falling out. Later that evening, according to you, the defendant slashed 3 of the tires on your car.
Correct.
You want him to be responsible for replacing them. Mr. Spielman says he didn't do it. What's your first name?
Andrew.
How old are you, Andrew?
23.
How long do you know Mr. Spielman?
I've known Mr. Spielman since about the 7th grade.
On what night were you out together, the night that the tires were slashed?
I believe it was a Friday night. I don't remember the exact
Remember the
date.
night?
29th, I think.
29th of?
December.
Where had you been?
We were on our way to Randy White's brother-in-law's boss's house.
You were driving?
Yes, I was driving.
What happened in the car?
An argument started because Brett Spielman wanted to get some marijuana and everybody else in the car was against that. And
Where did he want to go to get the marijuana?
To his dealer's house.
And did you know where that was?
No, I did not.
Did he tell you where it was?
No, he did not.
Was it on the way?
I hadn't even agreed to it, so he didn't get to the point of telling me where it was
Well,
at.
tell me exactly what he said.
He said, I want to go get some pot. Can you take me? And I said, no. And nobody else in this car wants to do that. Can you please stop with that altogether?
How many other people were in the car?
2, besides me and Brett.
And who are they?
Randy White and Brandon, his brother-in-law, which I do not know his last name.
So what happened?
So I said no, and he started ranting and raving and basically turned it into an argument with Randy White, and they were going back and forth, and I didn't want to hear it anymore, so I said, please stop, because they didn't get along anyway. So it basically had turned into an argument with them, and I said...
Where was he sitting, in the front or the back?
He was sitting in the front seat, beside me.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we had arrived to Randy's boss's house. We had both got out of the car while Randy and his brother-in-law went upstairs. We were downstairs smoking a cigarette, and it was going to take a turn to get violent because he was saying threats and all this.
Against whom?
Against me.
Why was he threatening you? I thought he was having an argument with Randy.
The argument was with Randy, but I took involvement in it because Randy was a lot smaller than him, and I didn't want it to go there, so I stepped up in Randy's place, and then
And
basically...
what did you say to him?
I said, you need to stop all this right now or I'm going to make you walk home. And he said, you're not going to make me walk home, this and that. And
Had he been drinking?
Have I been drinking?
Had he been drinking?
No, I do not think he had been drinking.
It was just nasty?
Yeah, he was just nasty with me.
Okay, keep going.
And then Randy and his brother-in-law had come back down, and we all got in the car, and I said, I'm going to make him walk home because he's just being too defiant for any of us to deal with.
What did he say when you told him he was going to walk home?
He got even worse, but...
Well, tell me what he said, Mr. Peck.
He was using a lot of cuss words, a lot of profanity, a lot of I'm going to everybody in that car, and just threats.
And that was on the 29th of December.
Yes.
What time?
I would say it was about 8 p.m.
Okay. Now let's fast forward a little bit, Ms. Powers. Tell me about the incident involving your tires. When did that take place?
December 30th.
What time?
I would say around shortly before 10, but not exactly. I don't know.
So tell me what happened.
Okay. It was a very, very stormy night. The wind was blowing and howling, and it was raining a lot. And the dog was circling the front door. And she was like yipping and barking, and she doesn't usually have that kind of behavior at all unless someone's at the door. But I opened the door and nobody was there. She kept doing it. So I opened the door again, and Mr. Spielman was standing on the other side of the car. My driveway comes up where the car is parked directly outside my front door, so I can clearly see it. And I said, what are you doing? Because it's kind of late to be coming over. And I thought he was coming to see my son, and just looked at me and took off.
Didn't say anything to you. Okay, keep going.
The next day I got up to go to work, and I, of course, didn't see the first tire because it was fine. Walked around the car and saw 1, 2, 3 tires flat. And so I called someone to come and take me to get new tires and called into work.
Okay, when did you see Andrew?
I saw him later that day.
Do you remember that day, Andrew?
Not too clearly. I remember her saying that 3 of my tires were slashed. Do you have any idea who would do it? And I said, I most certainly have an idea of who did it.
Well, I also
Shut up!
Okay.
Don't speak. You said, I most certainly have an idea who did it.
Yes, regarding the incident.
Just-
Regarding the incident.
And so you told your mother about the incident.
Yes.
And what did your mother say to you?
And then she said, I seen Brett in our driveway. I was thinking he would come up to give you, because at the time she didn't think I was enemies with Brett. And I said, well, that's who did it.
Okay. So when you said to her, I certainly do, and then she said to you, I saw him.
I saw Brett in the driveway.
driveway.
And then we knew right there who it was.
Okay, good.
I just didn't think Brett would have done anything like that to me.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Spielman. Now I'm listening to you.
The statement's completely false.
Listen to me. Let's get to the car on the 29th of December.
Okay, cool. We were in the car.
Look at me. Don't look over there. You're in the car.
We are in the car. We do have a conflicting argument about something. Okay, marijuana. I do what I do when my
Listen to me.
time away from here.
Let's go slowly. You're in the car and you have an argument. You have an argument about what?
I really cannot even remember. Honestly, don't remember.
You just told me it was about marijuana.
If it was about marijuana, I'm saying I'm not denying that, because I do smoke marijuana on my pastime from time to time.
So that if Andrew says that the argument was about stopping to buy marijuana, that would be
It
accurate.
could have been, but it couldn't have been.
Well, if you don't remember, sir, then I have to credit Andrew's account of the evening of the 29th, because that would seem to be something that you would remember. Where do you live?
Sacramento.
And how far did you have to walk home?
I didn't walk home. See, that's where the story changes. He ended up giving me a ride home.
Did you ultimately give him a
No,
ride
I
home?
did not give him a ride home, Your Honor.
Okay. Did he threaten to leave you stranded?
Yes, he did, but it was raining pretty bad outside, so I kind of negotiated my way to get a ride home.
What do you mean you kind of negotiated?
Well, I
your
said
way to
it's
drive?
kind of raining out and I don't have a coat, and it would keep kind of messed up. I had to walk home.
Family for a very long time.
Very
How old
long
are you
time.
now?
21 years old.
Currently on probation?
Juvenile, almost off. I'm going National Guard
So
about a
the
month.
answer is yes, you're currently on probation.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been on probation?
Since I was like 17.
Keep going.
Okay. Are we still on the 29th, or are we going the 30th?
No, we're past the 29th. I credit Mr. Geraldson's account of what happened on the 29th, sir. I believe he told me the truth. I believe you had an argument starting with Randy, ending up with Andrew about your desire to stop at the person who supplies you with marijuana, to get some marijuana, and they didn't
could've
want to
been
do
anything,
it.
though.
I'm speaking. And they didn't want to do it, and you became aggressive, and that's what the argument was about. So since you don't remember something that I probably would remember, but something that clearly you don't remember.
It was a year ago.
Well, I would remember, sir, a falling out that I had with a
He
child.
wasn't a very good friend. He always
Why don't
bickered.
you let me finish my statement, sir? Listen to the statement that I'm going to say to you. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Do you know what that means, Mr. Spielman?
Honestly, I do.
Tell me what it means.
It means if I know what happened, I don't have to remember. Look for the answer.
Right. That's what it means. So you're telling me it was over a year ago?
Over a year ago.
I'm speaking. And therefore, you can't quite remember everything that happened that evening. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So if you don't remember what happened on the evening of the 29th, which clearly, you're in a car with people, there's a big argument, it's raining very badly, you have to negotiate your way back to the car in order to get a ride home. These are all little smatterings of things that you remember, right? Little smatterings of things that you remember.
Yeah.
You don't remember all of it, but you remember little pieces of it.
Most of it.
You remember most of it.
Yes.
So the argument was about marijuana.
Yes, it was. I feel
Perfect. Now that your memory has been refreshed, why don't you tell me about the 30th?
The 30th.
Look at me.
The 30th. Well, my mom can vouch that I was with her.
Don't ask your mom to vouch for anything, sir. I'm asking you.
On the 30th, I was at my residence from 6 o'clock in the night, and I fell asleep on my couch with my entire family with a movie night. The night before New Year's Eve, my mom volunteers at a local social club she's involved in on New Year's Eve, so we always are together on most holidays and that night usually.
Well, just a minute. I don't understand something. Does your mother volunteer her time?
I'm
speaking!
Well, you are.
Does your mother volunteer her time at a social club, sir, so that she's not home on the 30th, so the rest of your family gets together? Is that what you're just telling me?
No, the night before we all stay together because we're going to be separated on New Year's Eve.
So is what you're telling me, sir, that you were together with your mother and the rest of your family?
Yes, I am.
And if I were to ask you, you would tell me that your son was home with you?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be unfortunate. That would be unfortunate.
I'm sorry.
I have a couple of questions for you. What does he do for a living?
He's going to the National Guard. He's been working.
So the answer is he doesn't do anything.
He's not working currently, no.
And he's not going to school?
No.
And how long have you permitted that circumstance?
He's only not worked a few months. He's going...
A few months is a very long time, filled in on probation. What did he do before a couple of months ago? Who did he work for?
A company called Prologix.
What kind of work did he do?
Warehouse work.
And why did he leave that job?
They merged with another company and downsized.
So he got fired?
Laid off.
How many children? Did I ask you a question?
No, you didn't, but it's just making me sound worse than I am, you know? Be fair, too.
I don't mind being fair, sir, when people tell me the truth.
I'm honestly telling you the truth.
Oh, no, you're not. The sweat on your brow tells me you're not.
I'm on TV.
Did you see sweat there? Look. You see sweat there?
No.
There. Look at your mother. Is she sweating? You know why she's not sweating? Because I didn't ask her what happened on the 30th. That's why she's not sweating. If I asked her what happened on the 30th, I guarantee you she'd be, when I got finished with her, she'd be sweating. How much were the tires?
Our tires were popped, too.
I'm not asking you a question.
I have the invoice here.
Can I see it, please?
Excuse me, Judge.
Yes.
May I submit my receipt for towing?
Absolutely. I'd like to see it, please. So between the towing and the tires, you have $394. Is that right?
Roughly, yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $394. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. You're lucky your probation wasn't violated. Miss Branham, this tall drink of water over here used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you were foolish enough to get him a cell phone.
Yes.
A cell phone with a bill in your name.
Yes.
And you did that, according to you, and really not disputed by Mr. Benjamin, so that you could converse with each other.
Yes.
And with the promise that he was going to take care of the bill.
Yes.
Well, he didn't exactly do that. And according to you, within the first couple of months that he had the phone, and it was one of those fancy phones. What do they call it, Mr. Benjamin?
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry.
Yes, ma'am.
He kept trading in the BlackBerry. And by the time he left for Europe to play basketball, which he does professionally or semi-professionally?
Professionally.
Professionally. He had racked up a bill of close to $1,700. And then you cut off the phone.
Yes.
So you had charges for cutting off the phone because there's an early termination fee?
Yes.
See, I don't do those things really well, but I heard all of this before. Because believe it or not, there are other foolish young ladies who've been standing right where you've been standing, who did the same dumb thing that you did. They are supposed to buy you presents. You get it? Right?
Correct.
They're supposed to bring flowers and candy and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. They're supposed to woo you. That's the way the Creator made it. Not the other way around. Because usually they're not that great a bargain.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ashley Branham says ex-boyfriend Jeremy Benjamin owes for a $1 cell phone bill.
Now, are you the bargain exception? Because you're going to tell me, because I want to hear it from your own mouth, Mr. Benjamin, because you look like a decent enough young man. She paid the bill because her mother said to her,
I don't want your credit to be bad.
That it was going to ruin her credit. And I assume that the reason she got the phone in the first place is because you didn't have credit.
Something like that.
Well, I assume if you could have gotten it for yourself, you would have gotten it for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, I was told never to, not take gifts, If she offers, I'm not going to say no.
You were told what? I'd like you to keep your voice up. I want
Oh,
to
you
hear
can't
that.
hear me. I'm sorry. I said my mother told me never to, not accept gifts, if
Your
she
mother
said
always told you to accept a gift.
Of course.
I'm getting to like you less and less, Mr. Benjamin.
Sorry about that.
I knew that it was just a slip. So, why isn't this bill your responsibility?
Because actually, the phones were actually replacement phones. I wasn't upgrading the phones. The phone that I received was a defective phone. So the actual reason why I had to keep sending the phones back because they kept sending me refurbished phones.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did. Actually, I did.
Yes, and?
Call her and explain it to her. I called her and I said, Ashley, these phones, I'm having a problem with these phones. I'm going to send them back. So what they do is they send you a phone and they send you a box. You put the broken phone in the box, you put the label on top, and you send it away. So I did that about 3 times. And they tell you before, if we don't receive the phones, we're going to charge you $400 per phone that is missing.
I assume you have all the receipts.
Well, actually, they just have a label that you just pull off the sticky thing and you put it in a box, and you can put it in any UPS. But T-Mobile itself had the actual the
Got it. I
tracking
got it,
numbers.
Mr. Benjamin.
Okay, so going along with the time and everything that we were together or whatever, I was going through graduation, contracts with basketball, you know, trying to take care of everything I had to take care of. And I explained to Ms. Brenham that I was putting in a claim for the money that I owed, and it was going to take almost a month for the claim to actually go through T-Mobile. They're not just going to give me the money back without finding the phones. Okay, cool. So I get a call about 2 weeks from that time saying, hey, my mother closed the account, she paid the bill, you owe her $1,700.
Well, a lot of that was for phone calls, too.
Well, the voice plan, I think, was about between $300 and $400 out of that $1,700.
Well, did you pay that part of it?
I paid $200 prior before that.
Why didn't you pay all of it?
I have no clue why I didn't pay it all.
You didn't pay any of it. According to you, your mother gave her $200 because she was complaining
Well,
to your
no,
mother.
not actually. I sent the money to my mother because I was out of the country at the time. I couldn't send a check from out of the country.
Okay, but you only sent her a little part of it.
Of course, yes.
What do you mean, of course?
Well, we made an agreement that, you know, I would pay $200 a month just because, you know, I don't know.
Who did you make the agreement with?
Her mother.
Her mother.
Yes.
But it's her credit.
I don't know. I
Look,
guess she just took
Mr.
over.
Benjamin, I read your answer, and what your answer put succinctly is, you went to Germany for how long?
I was in Germany for 4 months.
Working.
Yeah, this is a job.
Did you have a cell phone, by the way, while you were there?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Ah, that's the question that you didn't answer here in your answer, Mr. Benjamin.
Right.
Don't look down there.
Right.
Okay. She had turned off the cell phone. Your cell phone connection to her was over
Right.
when you went to Germany.
Right.
How'd you get a cell phone in Germany that had a chip that allows you to call the United States? That's a fancy phone. How did you get that? No, no, no. Don't think about it. Just give me the truth.
Yes, my mother. My mother got it for me out of the kindness of her heart.
Well, that's your mother's problem, because according to you, your mom says you always take a gift, never turn down a gift, right? So, Mr. Benjamin, this is what you have to do, sir. You've got a beef with T-Mobile, right?
Yes, I do.
You don't have beef with her.
I know. Well,
But she paid the bill. You have to get on the phone with T-Mobile, start writing letters to T-Mobile, all of that stuff, and say, listen, you were paid.
Right.
But you were supposed to get back to me with regard to the phones that I said I sent back to you.
But the problem is that the phone was in her name, so I can't call and say,
Sure you can. She's going to call and she's going to give you the authority to do that. You can do whatever you want because you owe her $1,700.
right, but they're not going to pay me the $1,700 for
They're
the...
going to give it to her.
How can they do that when she paid?
No, no, listen to me. Listen to me. If you are successful,
Okay.
then she will give you a letter saying you can take all the money because you're going to give it to her.
Right.
Because you used the phone, you got the new Blackberries whenever they sent you back one of the refurbished ones, which, by the way, I really don't understand. If you buy a new phone, if it turns out to be a dud, why don't you get a new phone rather than a refurbished one? I send that out over the airwaves to T-Mobile and everybody else.
Right.
It's your problem, not her problem. You deal with it. You should have dealt with it before you went to Germany. You should have dealt with it from Germany.
Well, I actually tried, and the thing that I asked her not to do was to close the account.
Well, she had to do that. They were going to ruin her credit, sir. They can't wait for you.
It was still active. I was still using the phone.
They can't wait for you to pay this bill. The bill was outstanding, more than the $200 you sent to your mother.
Right.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. Go try to get your money back from T-Mobile. Thank you very much. I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night, you were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That she would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
you
madam,
you
listen
haven't
to me
heard-
very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You
You
chose.
had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no. Not
Yes,
I was forced to
did sign
sign
that
it.
agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McAllister.
I'll get
and
to
I
you in
had-
a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the
Would
car,
you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay
just
me.
a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice. just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
Because he's not telling you the whole truth. What happened, he bails me out.
Are you, just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What do you lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. That's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's not. No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no contract.
I said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
So
he
no, madam.
We can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Your Honor. Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you are
a
because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this, or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have, but you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along, because if he said to you, you signed this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said.
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off, right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's why I asked you the question before. It's not the first time, it's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judge him for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
सुना है वहाँ पर जो हज हो रहा है ये परवाह